So, welcome to everybody. Shalom, peace be upon everybody. Hola, Jambo, Hotep, Namaste, Ni Hao, Aquaba, Habari, Jambo, Mivini Kofi, Nina Franco, Kutana Wewe, Bokutov, all that great stuff. Welcome. May the words of my mouth and the meditation of mine heart be acceptable in Yahweh's sight. He is our strength and our Redeemer, and it is in His name, which is His authority, that we pray, praise, proclaim, project, and protect this message. Amen. To those of you who are watching on YouTube, we're thankful and blessed and grateful to have you on here with us. And to those who are watching on TikTok, we're thankful and grateful. Grand rising to everybody. I see you, Heather. Shalom to Sister Tamara. Hello, Sharice. Thank you. Shantae, how you doing? Minister Nice, Brother Thomas. We're excited and thankful and grateful once again for another opportunity to be in front of you all again. We're going to spend a little bit of time. On Sundays, we have a little time to relax. We're not so much in a rush. Even though it depends. We'll see what the time is. We may go longer. We may be at the same time. We may go shorter. We'll see what the Holy Spirit does. Feel free to try and ask whatever questions you might want to ask. We'll try to make sure that we can answer them as best we can. I'm doing well, Brandon. So far, everything is all right. And I appreciate you for asking. I very much so. Thank you. And today we're going to talk about name branding. Once again, we give all honor to the Most High, Yahweh Elohim, who is Abba, Bin, and Ruach HaKodesh. Of course, we give all honor to the Most High for my wife, the Honorable Maya, who lives a life that's able to be honored, and thankful and grateful for that. We are thankful and grateful to the Most High for my children, family, our community, the diaspora, those that agree with us, those who disagree, those that are represented by others here, those of you who made it, those of you who are listening live, those of you who watch this later on our YouTube channel. We're grateful. We appreciate you. As always, before we get into this, please make it a point, if you can, to follow my wife, the excellent and most honorable Minister Maya, also known as Bloom and Flourish. With the letter N, not A-N-D, but Bloom and Flourish. You can find her on TikTok, YouTube, and her website. You can also look up hashtag Find Bloom, hashtag FINDBLOOM. And we're grateful. As a reminder, too, we will be coming back on this evening at 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern New York time. My wife and I together. And we will be giving a specific message dealing with, knowing yourself. And we'll be speaking with that. So if you want to join us later on, that'll be live on TikTok, and we'll make sure that's live that won't be on YouTube, but for those of you who would like to hear that conversation, we'll be back on the podcast as well. So we were blessed, by the way. Some of us had a chance to listen to her do some teaching on financial freedom yesterday for Shabbat Shalom on the podcast, and we're excited and grateful for what she gave us in that. Once again, though, today we're going to talk about name branding. Right, we're going to talk about name branding, and it's something that's very important, something that is very vital for us. Talking about name branding. Thanks for joining the community. 707 or 707. Hello, Ms. Mac. How you doing? Thank you to all who are coming on. We thank you in advance for the likes, for the gifts, all those different things. They help us with the algorithm. We appreciate you. Okay, if somebody's actually literally tuning in from North Korea, it's a blessing and something that is actually pretty amazing with all the stuff that happens over there and things that rights and things that are denied, and being able to tune in. So if you are doing so, we very much so appreciate you doing all the stuff you probably had to do just to be able to listen to something like this, and even the risk you would take of doing something like this is astounding. So we're thankful and grateful that somebody like you would be on today. Once again, we're going to talk about name branding. Name branding. Antarctica? Really? All right. Wow. Yeah, we have people from different places all the time. I can't say that I'm too familiar with people being on here, though, from Antarctica and being on from North Korea. So, grateful. Florida in the house. I know some other people on here from Florida as well. Chicago in the house, I know. Carolina's in the house. Detroit is in the house. I know D.C., Baltimore's in the house. So we're thankful, we're grateful for you all joining us today. And this is something we touched on at the end of yesterday. However, we're going to go over it again today. Amen. Yeah, we're reaching the globe. We're excited. New Mexico, Ohio, I see you all out there. Madagascar, okay. Africa in the house. East Africa, big chunk of East Africa, right off the edge. Missouri. Or is it, hold on. Missouri or no, that's Mississippi. MS, right? Missouri's MO, right? Um, Grateful to have everybody. Charlotte in the house. New Richmond. Okay. Ohio. All right. Cool, cool, cool. So we're going to talk about name branding, and we started speaking on that yesterday a little bit. Remember, we left off on that. That was kind of our selah, where we paused and thought about it until today. And man, it's amazing. Like, do I actually? Do people just go, hey, there's a black person with a fro and lets his beard grow, and so he's got to be Ricky Williams? Because if that's it, man, y'all gotta be better than that. That's the first thing you guys come out to shoot with. Somebody else will come on, get a job. Those are the two things that are probably the most prevalent things on here. Well, you're welcome to stay on, and we're thankful. I guess the moderator's already got to you. Hopefully you're still on. I want you to understand, yes, Yashua does love me. We're going to talk about name branding, because that whole thing, Jesus loves you, people get upset because I don't say Jesus, I say Yashua. And I want to talk about name brand, because if we were to even look at somebody, and yes, I know somebody's going to hit me with before we even get started. I know somebody's going to hit us with, Shakespeare didn't write all this stuff and there was a black woman and all that. That's not the goal. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm aware of that, right? Before we get into that, though, name branding, right? Shakespeare, a lot of people love Shakespeare. A lot of people love Roman stuff, so you romanticize things. A part of your romanticizing is to use things that we would call Shakespearean. Well, Shakespeare has something, right, that he talks about. And he says a rose by any other name is still a rose. And this is kind of the detrimental thinking. It sounds nice and sounds poetic, right? And I know what people will say he means by it, but I want you to understand that that's something that messes us up. Because a rose by any other name would not be a rose. That's why you call it a rose. Now, I guess what this person is saying is, well, if it's a rose, I can call it whatever I want, and that would make it a rose. Problem is that you don't do that, right? We're talking about branding. And so even though Shakespeare was trying to be poetic, he wasn't really speaking correctly when it comes to branding. Because he wouldn't be called he wouldn't be called Alfred Shakespeare. He would have been called William Shakespeare. He wouldn't have been called Bill Shakespeare, even though some people would use it as a nickname. He would have been called William Shakespeare. He wouldn't have been called Aloysius Johnson. He would have been called William Shakespeare. Why would he have been called William Shakespeare? Because that was his name. And so on his books, he doesn't have the other name on it. He has any other name. He has William Shakespeare, the name that he wants to be known as, right? Now, I'm trying to give you guys this stuff, and somebody's talking about hair and all that. I don't care about all that. So I'm trying to basically give you guys all this stuff and let you know what we're talking about, because while people are concerned about, my look and everything, I need you to comprehend name branding is something that you're going to miss, right? Name branding is something that you're going to be missing, So the name branding is really what the goal is to get you to see that whether it's my hair or anything like that, it's not as important as name branding, right? You've been taught that a rose by any other name is still a rose, but that's not the case, right? Just like you've been taught, you haven't been taught. It really comes down to even etymology, right? People don't understand something as simple as, if you say doctor, right? What is a doctor? When somebody has a DR next to their name, right? You think that means, oh, you just go see somebody, or somebody has a doctorate degree. The reality with this, though, is that if somebody says a doctor, we're talking about name branding. If you see a doctor so-and-so, what are they saying? They're saying that before you became a doctor, you had to be a master, right? And before you were a master, you had to be a bachelor, right? And before you were a bachelor, you had to be a student, but what we would really call it is a disciple, right? So when that person is branded a doctor, so to speak, right? When that person is branded a doctor, it doesn't matter how the rose looks, it's still a rose. It's if a dead rose, it's still a rose. If it's a rose you're eating, it's still a rose. If it's a rose with many thorns, it's still a rose, right? But if you're talking about a doctor had to first be a master had to first be a bachelor had to first be a disciple, or what you would call a student. Yes, name branding and classification. If you would give me enough time to actually speak on it, just sit here long enough to listen in, or to see what the actual foundation of it is. Or if you don't want to, that's fine. You don't have to. But to go ahead and automatically be like, hey, what you're doing is blah blah. Okay, to assume that I have no knowledge of stuff, that's great. But so when somebody's branded Doctor So and So or classified, if that makes you feel better, that classification that Doctor So and So is put in there, with it represents a whole bunch of other things. Is the point, right? Doctor doesn't just come by itself. Doctor comes with all this, right? That's the point. So if you want to talk about an associate, yeah, we can put that in there too, right? You had to be an associate. That's actually, I was going to skip over that one, but we can throw that one in there too, right? You had to be an associate of something, right? So we could throw that in there, where you had to be an associate, but whatever it is, but you had to have these things come with you. So what the goal is to get you to realize is, with a brand, there's more than just what you see. The brand comes with something, right? And the name on the brand is something different than what a lot of us believe as well, or have been taught, right? So the people don't understand. We talked about this many times. The name really means authority. Whatever name is on the brand, you're saying there's an authorization. There's things that come with it. So whatever name is with the brand, goes on the person, the place, the thing. So the brand is really just going to be what the noun is known as, right? So I guess we could say the brand is really the reputation, right? The brand is the reputation. All right, are you with me? Hopefully you are. So the name brand is really saying what's authorized and what's the reputation, right? The name on the brand authorizes certain things. The brand is the reputation. Okay? The name says, so basically put these two together. Name brand is saying this, whenever you hear about this reputation, this name, this authority has a reputation that comes with it, right? There could be sports authority, right? So when you go to a sports authority, you would be surprised if you went into sports authority and you didn't see anything dealing with sports, right? Why is that? Why would you be surprised if it didn't have anything to do with sports? Because it says sports authority, right? So if the brand is sports authority, then I would be like, okay, if I go into a place called sports authority and for whatever reason there's no sport gear, something wouldn't make sense. There's no sneakers in sports authority, something wouldn't make sense, right? So I expect, whether it's, I would have no problem if I saw fishing equipment in a sports authority, because they're authorized. Their name says, we're giving this to you, right? Sports authority would say, I'm authorized. This is the reputation that you carry, right? If somebody said, I'm going to Apple brand, right? Now, Apple is a little twist. Apple is talking about a bitten apple, right? Something, this fruit, this thing that's supposed to be so great and so amazing and so wonderful that everybody wants to touch it and everybody wants to grab it, right? See, so your authority, the reputation that they have. Now, Apple used to have a different type of reputation. Now it has a reputation for, we just give you the same technology. We put a camera on it, and we increase the memory, and we charge you more for it. But right, so that's the reputation they have. But it used to be innovation. Whenever you got an Apple product, reputation was innovation, and that innovation was authorized by Steve Jobs, the person who put it together. You assumed that anything that was coming from them was going to be from the same person who was able to put together a computer, the first personal computer that we had. You were thinking of somebody who came with the first iPod, with the first iPad, with the first iPhone, right? You were thinking of somebody who was changing the game, somebody who changed the game as far as all the different fonts and things that we have, and all the artistry that came on the computer. It wasn't just something that just functioned, and you had to put in all the ones and zeros and all this stuff. But when you got Apple product, it used to be, oh, okay, this thing gonna be off the chain. I'm about to get something, right? Name brand was talking about something. Somebody's name was attached to it, and therefore there's a reputation that came with that name, right? And the problem is with a lot of people is you're trying to do things without checking out the name or the brand, the authority or the reputation. What is the reputation that this person or this thing has, and what are they authorized to do, right? Now, people don't mind when they come on here, right? But they don't check the name. They don't know who I am. So people come on here, first thing they do is they challenge authority. I don't have a problem with it. What are you authorized to do? What do you do for a living? Why do you think you can do this more? What in your life says that you can do better than me? What this and that, all these different things, right? They're challenging authority. I don't have a problem. One of the first things I tell them to do is check the reputation that I carry and check the authority that I have. If I say I'm authorized by a specific belief system or culture or whatever, check out what I'm about, right? And then go ahead and get into a place to where what? To where now you can see if I'm reputable, right? And a lot of people aren't ready for that, right? And this is when we get into a whole bunch of things as far as name brand, namely, the focus of today. Our focus for this rising is going to be, when we talk about name brand, what we're going to focus in on name brand on this rising is something pretty simple. We are going to focus on why people get so bent out of shape when you say Yashvai, right? They get bent out of shape when you say Yashvai, right? Instead of Yesu or Yesus, or what we would call nowadays Jesus, right? Name brand. Now people say name brand matters, right? And everything else. If you buy a Tesla, the name that you get when you get a Tesla, who is Tesla? Why is it even named Tesla? Why is the company, the organization called Tesla? There's a name with that, and there's a reputation with that. Why is it important? Right? Well, I would say Yahweh, but I get people that use the letter J or whatever in using more, English language and stuff. You would say Jehovah, right? But why is it that we understand name brand for everything else, right? We understand it for everything else, but when it comes to Yeshua and Jesus, or when it comes to somebody wants to say God, right? They want to say God, which is a deity, by the way. God is not a random thing. God is a deity. God is an actual God, is a deity, but they don't want to say Elohim, which we would say Elohim, right? We would usually say it like this, Elohim, but people pronounce it Kim, right? But these are two different deities, right? So somebody comes on here talking about God this, God that, God this, God that, God this, and I'm like, well, I don't worship God because God's a Germanic deity, right? Yeah, thank you, sis. That's how we really should say it, with that I and the Y, or even just without the I, right? But people are mad. But name brand, that name authorizes something, and that brand has a reputation, right? Now check this out. The name brand, even if you want to talk about the name brand. So what is the name, right? The name of Elohim that he told Moses, that he told Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and that his children or his community are supposed to be using, he says, is this. He says that to call me Yahweh, right? This is what he says, call me, right? If you actually know what it is in your Bible, in Exodus chapter 3, verses 14 and 15, and don't go to the place that everybody goes, oh, I am that I am. That's not what it said. And even if you know that in English, read on to verse 16, in verse 15, if anything, you would have seen it said the Lord God, or Yahweh Elohim, if you know how to read it in Paleo Hebrew, right? So he would have said Yahweh would be my name, right? And Elohim, which really is more like this, La, Chi, Yum, more like this, right? Or Elohim, even, but I'll leave that alone. Elohim, right, would be a better phonetic pronunciation. So if Yahweh, well, Yahweh is Yahweh would be if we had a W in Hebrew, and we don't. So in Paleo Hebrew, there's no W. So you would, you have a W. That's what W is, or UV interchangeable. W, W. That's what you're using. You're not actually using what's cultural. We would have had a Vav there, because it's Yahweh is spelled Yah, Ha, Va at the end. Sound at the end. So this is Yahweh. Right? Name is important. Okay? That's his name. Now, Elohim would be spelled A, La, Chi, Ya, Ma. Okay? That's what he said that you should call me by. Whenever you see the Lord God in Scripture, you will always see Yahweh Elohim. That's what it means. Right? See, once again, so people say Elohim's name is, somebody's on here, God's name, which once again is a different deity. God is a Germanic deity. It's not the same thing. So once again, we're having a different conversation. It's a different standard. I'm not saying that you don't have the right to believe whatever you want to believe, but you got to comprehend the standard, right? So if you're going to comprehend the standard, name brand, he said in his word, my name, that's authorized. What I authorize people to use if you say you need an authority to give to people, right, to Pharaoh, to all these people, is Yahweh Elohim, Exodus chapter 3, verse 15, or Shemot 3:15, right? Way out of pocket, no problem. You can go ahead then, and you don't have to be here. You don't have to be our standard. So we appreciate you. So you can stay on if you would like. But so Yahweh Elohim is who we're dealing with, right? He said, that's my name. He said, that's what I authorize you. And he said that anybody that's going to be part of Yashtael, Israel, whether you're born, grafted in, whatever, he said, hey, this is what I should be known as. He said, this will be a monument to my name, and will be so for my people forever. So anybody trying to tell you, right, that, but once again, remember, we have to get in the name bread, right? Literally, Yahweh, Allah, Yahma, right? He said it, and this literally means the Father's hand, or the hand that leads us through the Holy Spirit to one that is nailed, leading us to the Holy Spirit and allowing us to give Yah praise. That's what it means, character by character. That's the name. That's the authority. The brand is the Father, the Shepherd, or the Son, the Holy Spirit, leading us, pushing us with that same hand towards the Spirit. And this also means water. It also means blood. Right? This is the name brand. This is the name brand right here. This is what we're supposed to, quote unquote, give the product that we give out is attached to the name brand. This is the name brand. I mean, you might not be Hebrew. I don't care if you're a Hebrew or not. You don't have to accept what you are. You don't have to believe what you are. If you don't believe it, that's fine. Right? Avda is different. And by the way, Jewish people, not every Jew, there are a few, but not every Jew is an Israelite. Just because somebody told you that doesn't mean they are. They're Ashkenazi by their very own Tanakh, or what they say is their Tanakh, their guide, their book. They would be of the tribe. They would be out of the tribe of Yapet or Japheth. Japheth is Germanic. Ashkenazi is Germanic. You're talking about a different tribe, right? You said if he knows our hearts, does it really matter? Well, if he says his name brand matters, then of course it matters. Why is it that when the Father tells us what matters, we say it doesn't matter because we don't want to be about it? That would be my question. If the Most High said, when you go and talk to Pharaoh, when you go talk to the person that will not let my people go, and you speak to them, tell them, this is the authority that I send you with. Moses asked a specific question. When I go, and he didn't even say, really, it was for Pharaoh. Moses asked specifically, when I go to your people need to know what? See, Moses, the person who we follow, the stuff he wrote out, right? I'm already past the DNA test. DNA already proves it, but I already know what tribe I come from. I'm not like many people who don't know where they come from. Do you know where Shwi is, the Shwi people? Do you know about where the scattered Israelites were in the map of the 1700s? Do you know about Ashanti, Shwi, Igbo, the mixture with Kemet, the mixture with Nubia, all that? If you don't know about those, then you might want to check that out before asking me about a DNA test. I actually know where I'm from, been to where I'm from enough to be able to comprehend it, and been accepted back into the tribe many times over. So you're not talking to somebody who's out here saying, oh, you're just some African American. African Americans are not even natural people. Check out the law. African Americans are artificial persons according to Black's Law Dictionary. Just like black people are artificial people, according to this law, just like Negroes are artificial people. Make sure you comprehend the law. You make sure you know what the law actually says before you start making yourself something. I'm actually talking about the natural human being, which is legal. by the Constitution. You're talking about the artificial person that is illegal by the Constitution, and therefore you're a United States citizen belonging to the 14th Amendment citizenship, talking about belonging to a corporation, which is why you're a slave that's in debt or a debt that's enslaved. Meanwhile, for those of us that actually are citizens of the United States of America on paper, meaning that wherever we walk, it's ours, I have the right to be able to be protected, to be able to worship whom I please, just like you do. Sovereigns want people to worship whoever they want, right? And the name brand that I associate my worship with is Yahweh Elohim. Exactly what I told you. Is it Gervonta? Go and look up Black's Law Dictionary if you don't know what that is. It's literally a dictionary called Black's Law Dictionary. Matter of fact, Google Black's Law Dictionary artificial person and look up the definition. And you will discover that a black person or a Negro, according to Black's Law Dictionary, is an artificial person. So if you go to court, look, I'm black all day, every day. But when you go to court and they try to brand you, right, don't write that you're a black person. If they need something to say that you are, you say that what? You say, I'm a natural person. A natural person is somebody who's actually real. But if you're a 14th Amendment citizen, using your birth certificate, your social security number, and using the benefits and privileges from the government, it means that you belong to the corporation of the United States. Look up 3002 15A, 3002 3002 15A, 3002 15A, and that will tell you that the United States is defined as a corporation. So, for those who want to be branded as corporate citizens, then go ahead and belong to a corporation, right? Those of you who want to be branded as something that has eternal rights, or unalienable rights, is what the Constitution would call it, Yahweh Elohim. You see what I'm saying? These are the things that we're talking about. I mean, my moderators are here to do, thank you, T2 Cents. My moderators are here to do what I trust them to do. And if you're, right, so if they saw something that you said that didn't vibe, you know, I trust what they did. But you're back on, you were able to hear, and now you're able to speak. So I can't catch every comment. They catch the ones that I can't catch, and they try to answer questions even sometimes. And sometimes you guys go past that. But if you feel that was too much, oh well, I apologize. That's the environment that's set up. So we're talking about name branding, and people keep saying a name doesn't matter, or people say God's name is unutterable. Once again, if you worship God, that's a different deity. And that's what I told you. If you had stayed on, I think you would have heard that. So I'm assuming you did. God's name is a whole nother deity. Right? God's name God is another deity. Elohim is not God. Right? It's just like when people talk about Kemetic gods. You can't talk about Kemetic gods because Kemetic people didn't worship gods. They worship Netchers. Different culture, different mindset, different process. Right? Well, Ryan, then go ahead and go somewhere else. And then you won't have to worry about it. Or put the phone down to where you don't have to see me. And then that way you won't have to worry about anything but the message. But those who are interested in the message, right, this is what we're speaking on. Right? This is what we're speaking on, this name branding. See, you don't even know. Like somebody just even asked the question. They don't comprehend the difference between the United States and the United States of America. Those are two different brands. Two different names, two different brands. You see what I'm saying? And so people don't comprehend it. Here's another thing that people need to comprehend, right? If there's a king, right, the king would have a name, correct? Right? We don't have nameless kings out here. When's the last time that you studied a king that didn't have a name? Can anybody answer that for me? When's the last time that you went and you studied a king that didn't have a name? All right? Can anybody tell me the last time they studied the king? Right? Yeah, we do teach Hebrew. Matter of fact, we have some classes coming up the week of October 11th. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Or you can just DM me for more information if you can't stick with us the whole time. You know, but so when's the last time you ran into a king that was nameless? Right? When's the last time that you, just somebody help me out. When's the last time that you ran into a king? You're welcome, whoever said thank you for your teachings. I saw it briefly on there. When is the last time we saw a king? Somebody said never, right? There's never been a king that you studied, not a real king, right? Not just some fake king or a king for a video game or for a movie. You've never studied a king that never had a name, right? Matter of fact, you can't be a king or a queen without a name. Did you know that? It's impossible. It is impossible to be a king or a queen, right, without a name. because your name has to be attached to somebody who came before you, and that name therefore authorizes you to be able to become king. Queen Elizabeth, when she became Queen of England, she had to utter all the queens and kings that were attached to her that allowed for her to be in the throne before she could take the throne. Yes, it is a copper cup. This is obviously an older copper cup, right? The newer ones look like this, but I've had this one for quite some time. I actually like this one a lot better, right? But you see what I'm saying? Every king has to have a name brand, right? Every king that you've ever known has had a name. Now, if the king has to have a name, then the brand, right? The brand doesn't matter without the name. Let me ask this. When's the last time that you saw a brand without a name? Right? You never saw a brand without a name. You never saw a king without a name. But we got people out here trying to say that the brand of the Most High is nameless. The word name means authority. That's why people do that. But, you know, like, even if you don't know that, you have to understand the mindset where these things came from. These things didn't come by accident, right? The reason why people get to a place where they say that there's no name, the philosophy, if you will, behind it, or the psychology, if you will, behind it, is when you're dealing, or even the theories behind it, is when you're dealing with somebody who's trying to say something is without a name, they're trying to say that it's not authorized. Therefore, they can now authorize it to be or do whatever they want it to do. Right? That's fine. I'm not trying to be deep. I'm trying to be righteous. I'm trying to be in right legal standing. So, right? So, you know, one thing I am willing to do, though, is put my name out and put my face out. Unfortunately, it doesn't seem like you're willing to do that. So, here's a king, right? There needs a king. You said, no, it's Allah. It's all, what? What? No, it's Allah. No, it's Yahweh. I don't even understand what that means. But once again, so you have a king, he's got to have a name. You have a queen, she has to have a name, right? I'm just using king because of what I'm about to write. But king or queen, right? They'd have to have a name. Now, king has a name, and he has a brand. What is his brand then? See, his brand is kingdom. And a specific kingdom, isn't it? It's not just any kingdom, but it's the kingdom of Shemayim, the kingdom of heaven, right? He has a specific brand that he brings as a king. Whatever the name is, whatever the authority is of the king, is what he authorizes the reputation, the kingdom to be. You see that? No, Jehovah is when they created the letter J. Question for you. Is the letter J in Greek? No. So when you're talking about English, even in English, we speak English. We don't actually speak with the people who spoke Anglo or whatever you want to call it, Anglo, etc. spoke back in the day. The letter J didn't even exist when people spoke actual Anglo. We speak English, kind of, sort of. We got a little bit of French. We got a little bit of African languages. We got a little bit of European languages. We got a little bit of native languages. It's not a one thing, right? There's a bunch of stuff. So you speak English, right? English. You kind of sort of speak. Back then, though, remember, because the name of Yesus, it wasn't J-E-S-U-S back in the day, right? Remember, it wasn't J-E-S-U-S. Go get the 1611 King James Version, one of the older versions of the Bible. You can find other versions of the Bible older than that were written in English, and you'll discover that it was written like this, right? It was written I-E-S-U-S or I-E-S-U. Why? Because that's the Latin and the Greek that preceded it. That's the nickname that Yahshua HaMashiach was given on the cross in Latin and Greek, because Pontius Pilate was like, yo, I know that this person is all the way man and all the way connected to gods and our gods, the way we deem gods, that he's got to be a demigod. Therefore, he's Zeus. He's half man, half Zeus. Right? So you're not going to tell me that Yahshua, right, all of a sudden turns into Yesu or Jesus. This is a nickname given, and then people pulled from this nickname when they wanted to focus on making it romantic. You romanticized it, or people romanticized it, or people are still romanticizing it, so you're hanging on to the romantic, right? But I'm not somebody into the romantic stuff. Like, I don't like to eat with all the lights off and a candle lit. You know why they did that? Because a whole bunch of people in Rome were poor, and they lived in caves. That was their apartment complexes. They don't talk about that part of Rome. And so since they lived in there, that's how you ate. If you were somebody that had a little candle, you were doing all right. You ate candlelit dinners, right? I don't need to eat candlelit dinners. I just turn on the light. I like to see what I'm eating. I like to eat outside in the sun. I like to see what I'm eating. Right? This is a different brand. This is a different authority. This is a different reputation. That's why people get caught up on this. They will fight you to the death because you will not say this Greco-Roman romantic period type name, right? You won't say that. You'll stick to Yashra. You don't worship God, which is a deity. I don't worship a false deity. I worship the only wise deity, which is Elohim, right? And this Yahweh Elohim is king over his kingdom. The kingdom of heaven is his brand. The king has a name. His name is Yahweh, right? We already went through his actual name. It's Yahweh is his name, according to his own conversation with Moshe or Moses at the burning bush, right? And we're not coming out of things culturally. See, that's the problem, is that culture needs to be established. People forget that name brands establish culture. Calvin Klein has a culture. If you were to go into a Calvin Klein place, they work a certain way, they act a certain way, you have to dress a certain way. You can't just show up to Calvin Klein and not be dressed in Calvin Klein wear. You can't be showing up with another person's gear, right? Like if you work for Calvin Klein, you better show up in the brand, right? You see what I'm saying? If you work for McDonald's, you can't show up wearing Burger King attire. You better make sure that you got a McDonald's uniform on, right? If you work in a corporation, you can't just wear whatever you want. You can't just have your hair however you want, right? You better make sure that you wear a suit and tie, that you're presentable, that you're shaven, all that stuff. You got to look a certain way, or else they say that you don't represent the brand well. If you're going to go out and be in the army, you don't get to wear Turkish soldier's outfit. You need to wear an army uniform. Your camis need to look a certain way, and watch camis. Anybody who's been in will tell you, right? Like if you're in the military, you can tell the difference between Navy camis, Marine camis, Army camis, Air Force camis, right? You can tell. I can tell the difference. If I see a patch, for example, right? If I see a patch on the arm, then I already know more than likely, like you're gonna be dealing with Army. And if I see something specific, like I can see certain things. If I see certain pictures on there, I might say, okay, that's airborne right there. What type of airborne? That might be 82nd Airborne, right? There's all types of stuff, right? The brand matters. And yet, when it comes to the Most High, who created all, everybody says, well, brand matters for everything else, but for him, he doesn't care about his name. What is that? What is that? Does that make any sense? Somebody help me with that. Right? By the way, when somebody said the Sumerian god El, understand that there were many people who had many titles for Yahweh, but they all believed in Yahweh. You'll have to. We talked about this before, and when you look at Melchizedek, he was a Canaanite king, right? And he actually. Sorry about that. Oh goodness, we lost TikTok for a second. Okay, sorry about that. I have somebody trying to call me through WhatsApp. I don't know what's going on, but hopefully they won't keep calling so we can stay on track. But when you have when you have this going on, right? Understand that you have a name brand. Well, I was talking about Melchizedek, who was a Canaanite king, and he received a tithe from Abraham. But it says he was faithful, right? Now he worshipped Baal, but Baal didn't mean, and we have proof of this. Baal didn't mean what you think it meant back then. Like Baal became unauthorized. They started taking the name of Baal, and they changed it to brand, right? Or in other words, the title of Baal was something that meant the only wise Elohim. It was in their language. They said Baal, right, instead of Elohim, but they meant the same thing. Like Allah, by the way, Allah is a title. It's not actually a name, right? That's why we say Elohim. Allah is short for Elohim. Remember, Isaac and Ishmael are cousins. I'm sorry, y'all. I don't know. I might have to get rid of the WhatsApp app if the person's gonna keep calling us. But they were cousins. Ishmael and Isaac are cousins. They spoke the same language. They started off with the same language. So Allah and Elohim, you're dealing with the same person. You're dealing with the same title, right? People don't understand, right? But you have people that fight over what? Not the brand, but the authority. The title is the same. We're talking about the kingdom of heaven. However, the problem is that now we're having issues over the name. Because people are saying, well, the name, the authority, who authorized this? Is Muhammad more important than Christ? Is Christ more important than Muhammad? That's what we're getting into. You're talking about branding. You're talking about name brand. You see what I'm saying? And a lot of people aren't ready for that conversation, but that's really what's going on. right? Like that's really what's going on. I see you, angelic discipline. Peace to you, King. Right. So if somebody comes to you and says Assalamu alaikum, I have no problem saying alaikum salam. Somebody be like, oh my gosh, you would say that to somebody who's a mother? Yeah. Because they're not saying anything that's vicious or something that's terrible or anything like that. They're greeting me, and they're greeting me with a greeting that they believe, makes us brothers. And anybody who's Ishmael, like anybody who's truly Ishmael, when you meet him, they're excited to meet somebody that's Abba or somebody that's Israel. They're excited, right, to meet us because really we're the same family, right? We're the same family. We're related to each other. And I try to teach people this. People think because I talk about being black that that means that I hate others. Like at the end of the day, the blackness, the further back we go into the story of mankind, the further back we get into everybody being black, and everybody came out of a black womb. Therefore, and if we're talking about even the stuff we're talking about with Canaan, understand like Canaan, Baal, they used to worship only one true Elohim, just like in China. Go back and look at Shangdi. In China, they worshiped one Shangdi, one true Elohim, right? They said his name was Shangdi instead of Yahweh, but this Shangdi they believe was the Shangdi of Noah. They believed he was the Shangdi of Shem, Ham, and Japheth. They believed that he was the Shangdi of the Garden of Eden. They believed the same thing. It wasn't until they were introduced to Hinduism and Buddhism that they began to say, okay, we'll go away from Shangdi. They even believed, though, in one true king and that he was the one in the kingdom of heaven. Matter of fact, if you go over to China, they have a temple there still that's fashioned after the temple that was in Yastiel, and that it has 3 courts. 3 different places of worship. Same thing. They were monotheistic, right? They believed in one king. They believed in one king overall. That was the name brand. The problem is that people have brought their own brands and said, we're going to take whatever name we want. We're going to put our name on it. That's why you got to be careful. Like the Methodist, for example, let's just deal with Christianity, right? Since people like Christianity so much. If you're dealing with a Methodist, the Methodist says, my methodology is better than yours. So they named themselves Methodist to say that their brand, right? They've authorized themselves. They said the Most High name authorized them because their founder has the best method ever. That's how that works. Or what about a Baptist? The Baptist focuses on one little piece and says, okay, we're going to take the baptism. We do the baptism correct. We do it in the right name. And therefore, we're more righteous than everybody else. So they put their little spin, their authority on what the brand should be, changing stuff up, right? If you go somewhere and you're talking to somebody who's a Lutheran, Martin Luther didn't even want to leave the Catholic Church. Martin Luther wasn't even a Lutheran, y'all. Somebody took his name and attached it to what they wanted to do. They wanted to leave the Roman Catholic Church. He said, hey, man, the only thing I was trying to do is get the Pope to act right. He even wrote the Pope an apology for all the stuff that came out when people used his letter on the door. He even wrote the Pope an apology saying, I didn't really want to leave the Roman Catholic faith. I just was trying to get people to act right. Yet people are still using his name today to brand whatever they want to do in their worship. Go do my research. I don't do any research. That's funny. You could go look up everything I'm saying, right? Matter of fact, Martin Luther, right? Here's something else. This person who said I don't do any research. Go research this person if you're still on. I don't know if you got muted or if you got blocked, but do this for me while you're muted because you probably got to be muted for 5 minutes or so, right? So go do this while you're muted. Go look up what Martin Luther said to the Pope regarding the world being flat or the world being round. Because it's the Roman Catholic Church that hired this guy who didn't even want to put his name on it. And they killed him and put his name on it anyways. But the Roman Catholic Church actually hired a guy to teach, to start saying that the world was round. People think that the Roman Catholic Church wanted the earth to be flat. No, the Roman Catholic Church actually were the people that worldwide introduced the theory of the world is round. And that the earth moved around the sun didn't move around the earth. And I'm not here to get into that debate. I just want you to know, people don't even know this. You're branding the Roman Catholic Church for certain things and not realizing you have it flipped. They actually wanted everybody to start saying the world was round. And Martin Luther actually went to the Pope again and said, hey, man, this is going to be crazy if you do this. Because if you do this, you're going to change the way people look at the Most High. Because the Bible teaches that the earth has a foundation, that it has corners, that the sun moves around it, that the moon moves around it. That the sun was asked to stand still by Moses, right? He didn't say ask the earth to stop rotating. He said, may you stop the sun, right? And so what he said, if you're going to teach this, you're going to change even the cosmology You're going to change the way people look at the creation. If they change the way they look at the creation, they'll change the way they look at the creation. If they change the creator, if they change the way they look at the king, they'll change the way they look at the kingdom. He was like, you got to change that. Go research that. Right? That's what Martin Luther said. You know, not Kofi, not black so-and-so said, white. Martin Luther said that. Right? So what I'm saying is that at the end of the day, name brand, that's what you're dealing with most of the stuff. People are getting on here frustrated and not realizing, like, that's why I say all the time, like, you're not my standard. People want you to be on their standard, right? Well, Hindus believe that there was one God, so to speak. They don't use the term God either, but, you know, one God, and that they believe that all these other deities now that exist, they believe that really they were just nothing more than manifestations of that one God, so to speak, right? Just like with Kemet, they originally believed there was one God, and then they believed there were multiple manifestations of that one nature or God, right? What happened is people like to worship the creation rather than the creator, and you get cognitive dissonance because the king is the authority, the name, and the brand is what the king authorizes. You see, like, so people have name brand off. So this is why people are talking about, I'm proud to be an American. Well, what is an American by name? What is the name brand of an American? I'm not saying you should or shouldn't be. I'm talking about, can you tell me what an American is? Can you tell me what American was originally before it got changed into what it is today? See, you're talking about logo. Logo is not the same language that they would have spoke, correct? Right? But I get you. I like that, actually. You know what? Sorry. I get you. I see what you're saying. Right? I misread what you were saying. I'm with you. I like that. Right? They were Native Americans. That's what an American was. American, by definition, was somebody who was black or copper colored, who was native to what we now call the Americas, or native to Turtle Island. That was what a native person, that's what a Native American was. That's why you can say you're a Native American. Now, why is it they say Native American? Can we break that down even? See, you got to see name brand. Name brand, right? So if a Native American was originally a copper or black colored person who used to be in here, right? So let's just say copper, because some people don't want us to call it black, right? But copper, dark-skinned people, right? Like, what is this? This is copper, right? This is copper, right? So copper-colored people, right? Copper-colored people. You see this next to my skin? Copper-colored people. Y'all got that? All right, so copper-colored people, right, were the first Americans, right? So then now they try to say that anybody is an American. But what happened to change them from copper-colored? Because that was even the colonizers. The colonizer people who colonized the oppressed people, they said that was their definition of an American. What happened in between here and here? Something had to happen to change the brand. To where now, when you hear American, you don't even think copper-colored person. You have people that even try to tell you that anybody born here is an American, or anybody that comes from another country and gets their green card, now they're an American. What happened to change the brand, where you don't even associate the right name or authority with the brand? Imperialism, yes, but I'm looking for something specific, right? Because this is what I'm saying with name branding. Imperialism, of course, the system of imperialism, it really comes out of that, right? But what happened with these imperialists, so to speak? Right? This is what happened. You learned this in school, but they never told you what the purpose of it was. The Boston Tea Party. Boom. Wow. You see that? Right there. The Boston Tea Party. That's what happened. Right? The United States Corporation as well, you could say change it. Yep, but that was even before. Boston Tea Party happened before the corporation. By Boston Tea Party, you're dealing with 1776, right? Or yeah. You're dealing with Boston Tea Party 1776. The corporation in the United States doesn't happen until 1866. 90 years later. Right? So when we're talking about this, what happened at the Boston Tea Party that changed the brand? You see that? All it takes is one thing, and it changes the brand. What caused? Because remember, what we call the Revolutionary War, which was really a civil war. It was Englishmen versus Englishmen, right? So it was really a civil war, and the Civil War went from 1776 all the way to to 1865. That's really the Civil War. People don't think about it. It was 1773. Okay, thank you for the correction. You saw me searching my brain. I couldn't I couldn't catch the date. I just went to 1776. Thank you for the correction, right? Well, what happens at the Boston Tea Party? Because it was 50-50, right? It was 50-50. At the time of the Revolutionary War, 50% of the people that were living in the colonies wanted to be British, and 50% of the people living in there wanted to be what they were going to say American, right? So they weren't American yet, even when they said they were American at the Boston Tea Party. But what happened at the Boston Tea Party to change the brand? You see? That's what you got to think about this. How does somebody change the brand? Change what you think about when it comes to the brand, right? Yep, we know there's two constitutions, right? But what changed the brand? You know what changed the brand? Boston Tea Party. The same people that they were killing off, the copper-colored people that Americans, that were Americans legally at first. They killed them off, took their land, pushed them away, all that stuff. And then they said, we're tired of these tyrants who are pushing us around. And the Native Americans keep saying they're pushed around, but we're pushed around too. Uh-oh. Uh-oh, you see? So, all lives matter, Black Lives Matter type deal, right? Well, the natives are always talking about how we push them around. Well, we get pushed around. We don't have a easy life either. How can you say we're racist just because my dad or my granddad came over and pushed these people away? I was born here. I'm just as much an American as a Native American is. You heard that before? Like with Africa and South Africa and things like that, right? So they pushed them away. They took their land, did all that stuff, right? They pushed them away from where they are. I didn't say all of them died off. That's not what I said, right? Like keep up with me. I didn't say that they all died off, right? So here we are. Boston Tea Party comes up, and they say what? We're the Americans, and they go and they put themselves in blackface, copper colored. They painted their faces. They put on war paint on top of their painted faces. Then they put on the uniforms, or even fake uniforms, if you will. And these uniforms basically were what? They were supposed to be Native American gear, some of which they had taken off of the people that had even scalped, put them on, and then said, we are the Americans now. And when they said, we are the Americans now, that changed the brand to where now you think an American, are people born here. And technically, most of you, if we just be honest, people don't want to admit this, but honestly, when you think American, you think of a white male. See? So they literally took it, and in one, we would call it advertisement campaign, if you will. They took this, and they used it as to shift the paradigm, right? And they took something that was copper colored, and they said now it's white. And middle-aged as well. Middle-aged white man, right? But yeah, so that's why you think American, middle-aged white man to this day. That's why you think American, you think George Washington. Now, George Washington is supposed to be this heroic guy who never told a lie, all these different things, helped out all these people. Problem with that is, though, that George Washington had slaves. And he was a Virginia slave owner. And he married Martha Washington because she had just as many slaves as him, so he knew when he married her, whatever she had would become his. Problem with George Washington is that he died of syphilis because he was raping his slaves. Problem with George Washington is that we have documented stuff from George Washington saying that there was an overseer that came to him, and the overseer said he had whipped a black woman, well, they wouldn't even call her a woman back then, but a black woman, and had beat her savagely twice, and said she deserved it. Explained the situation to George Washington. George Washington looked at him and he said that was proper. That was fair. Right? That's the American that people look up to. That's the name brand. That's why when people say, I don't see myself in America, somebody says, well, I see myself, and you should just want to be like me. We had bad things, but George Washington and Thomas Jefferson, Virginia slave owner. Then they'll say, well, what about Monroe, Virginia slave owner? What about Madison, Virginia slave owner? I just named 4 out of your first 5 presidents. We can keep on going. What about the seventh one, rather? Number 2 and number 6 are the same family, and they technically were slave owners because they were in the White House. The White House was a plantation. I'm sorry, y'all. Oh, my goodness. I'm sorry, y'all. Somebody keeps trying to hit me up through WhatsApp. I don't know what's going on with that. But you got to understand, like, it's the second and sixth people. That was John Adams and then his son, John Quincy Adams. They were both presidents. They were both slave owners because they were in the White House. The White House was a plantation. George Washington built the plantation and actually, as a Virginia slave owner and the president, set aside slave land, right, or I'm sorry, plantation land to be used as Washington, D.C., and then they built a manor or a mansion on it, and then they put black slaves in there, and they had overseers. That means that the White House is in the middle in Washington, D.C., with the White House. All of Washington, D.C. used to be black owned. Anybody from Washington, D.C. will tell you, go over to D.C., start riding some of these metro stations. And when you see names on there, especially one in particular, so on the Orange Line, I believe, called Foggy Bottom. And when you go to Foggy Bottom, you'll come out and it's totally different. Totally looks like a white establishment, does not look like stuff by white people, this, that, or whatever. But I promise you, right, that land is called Foggy Bottom. Do some research, because black people used to live in the swampland, and it was foggy. They were on the bottom, you know, so to speak, you know, as far as rank. And so it was Foggy Bottom. That's where they lived, right? And if you go to D.C. till this day, when you go there, make sure you got some bug spray, because you will get bit up by mosquitoes, because it's swampland. It gets extremely hot over there because it's swampland, right? Foggy Bottom, right? They changed this stuff up. You think that George Washington is all that. You think he's a great American because you don't understand. Great Americans own copper-colored people. They own the very people that they took over from. They did it with the Boston Tea Party. Right? Or go to Central Park. Central Park now, very whitewashed and supposed to be this place. And when I was growing up in New York as a little child, I can't say I grew up as an adult, but when I was growing up as a little child and have been back since, it was a place that, you know, black people didn't necessarily want to go to all the time, this, that, or whatever. But now it's a place, you know, white people be jogging in the middle of the night, you know. And before that, it used to be a land that was black owned, and it was black owned, black churches on there, black schools, black food, black stores, black community. And then they took over it, killed the people off, pushed them off the land, and the ones that were left. And then they basically, now it's a park. And you think, when you see it, you think of the new brand. You think Central Park. You don't think that black people used to be there, copper-colored people used to be there. Matter of fact, you don't even think of, well, Holy Spirit said hold off on that. I'm going to hold off on that part. But you see what I'm saying? Right? Like, all the stuff that's there, right? You hear what I'm saying? Like, this is a different mindset. It's a different thought process. And people aren't ready for what? Name brand. People have changed the name brand. I mean, I read little books here and there, excerpts. I listen to a lot of audiobooks. A lot of this stuff, I would just say, start off with a Google search or go to a library. A lot of this stuff I learned at the library before, you know, I was even efficient with Google. You know, and I use just the same way because, you know, I don't know, before somebody says, well, Google is something that, you know, doesn't, Google's not a book. Yeah, I understand that. Google is basically the same thing as the Dewey Decimal System, right? So go use Google, the Dewey Decimal System, to go find the books and stuff, I would say. But always establish culture. You know, books that I would establish, say, as far as establishing culture, anything by Dr. Carter G. Woodson, anything by Dr. Henry Clark, anything by Dr. Dr. Yusuf, right? Anything by Dr. Laya Africa, anything by Dr. Francis Cress Welsing, right? Anything by Dr. Amos Wilson. Right? You know, you have to know these things, but that's what I'm saying. All these things we're talking about, only thing we're talking about right now is name brand. Yeah, you know, give us our country back, you know, let us be in charge again. Yeah. You said it has bibliographic references. Okay. But yeah, so you got to understand, we're dealing with name brand. And people don't comprehend what we're talking about. So when somebody says what's in the name, or it doesn't matter what you call somebody, that's false. Yeah, that's what we were talking about. That's the park we were talking about. Right? So a lot of people want to come on here and have this discussion, and we're having a false discussion because you don't even want to deal with the name brand. What do we do with our knowledge? Well, that's why we're working on getting land. That's why we grow food. That's why we give classes for free. That's why we make sure that we're teaching people how to invest correctly. That's why we're making sure that we tell people you got to come together. Even biblically speaking, everybody in that Bible, they live with each other, right? So it's got to be a diaspora, something we do all together. We have to learn how to spend money. We have to learn what not to spend money on. right? So those are things that we're doing, you know. A name is worth more than riches, right? And here's also another thing with your name brand, right? Your name brand is attached to this right here, because you don't know the difference between your straw man and even your common law name. Did you know that you have the right to have a common law name, and that you can even make sure that that common law name is patented? Did you know that? Name brand. If Yahweh's name matters, if Yahshua's name matters, if Ruach HaKodesh's name matters, right, then you have a straw man and you also have a common law name. What's your common law name? Do you have one? If my people who are known by my name would humble myself, if my people who are called, if my people who are called or invited by my name, right, by my name brand, if my people who are called by my name, not a name somebody gave you so that they can own you or that they can say that this is the real you, but if my people who are called by my actual name, right, if my people who are called by my actual name brand, you out here, born, I don't know, John Stephen Smith, and you think that's your name, that's your straw man. That's why Joe, see, and I forget his name, so I'm probably going to get this name wrong, but go look up, this name right here is not real, right? This name is not real, right? You know that, right? This is not a real name. That's your president, but that's not a real name. So you're trying to hold him accountable for stuff, but that's not his real name. So if you were to try to take him to court, or try to take him to world court, or try to do whatever, man, he ain't gonna worry about. That's not who he is, right? Oh, so somebody said, well, Joe is short for Joseph, and okay, fine. Then why don't you ever call him by his full name, Joseph? I forget what it is. It's like a some people call it like a feminine name or whatever, but I forget what it is. Like Joseph something Biden Jr. Right? Why does nobody ever call him by that name? Because if you don't call him by that name, you can't hold him accountable for nothing. You see that? Or you guys remember this name right here? And I'm not a Republican, by the way. I'm just giving you guys, because a lot of people who come on here come from Republican rhetoric. And Democratic rhetoric also. Republican and Democratic stuff is crazy because it keeps you separate from who you really are. Both of them are attached to the same United States. That's what you need to be worried about. It's the United States corporation. Doesn't matter if they're Republicans or Democrats. They both on the same side, right? But Robinette, thank you. Yeah, it's Joseph Robinette Biden Jr., right? So if you're not talking about Joseph Robinette Biden Jr., then who you talking about? You see what I'm saying? Straw man and common law names, and then other fake names that are out there. People don't know the difference. We're talking about name brand, right? But here's another one, right, that people would try to use and didn't understand what was going on when you were using it, right? And I'm probably going to misspell this, so forgive me. Right, I'm gonna probably misspell the first name, right? But then you had Barack Hussein Obama, right? Now, what is, and I'm not sure if I spelled that right, forgive me. I'm just trying to give an example, right? So he didn't use this name all the time. He only used this name that was authorized for him to be able to use. He only used this name in particular instances. So whenever I heard him, right, use this name, I recognize, oh, okay, he's authorizing something specific. You see what I'm saying? You can create your common law name, and whatever you're commonly referred to, you make sure that that's patented and protected. But like when we're dealing community and stuff, you whatever name you give me, that's your common law name. And when we have our land, you will not be known that you're straw man on the land. Everybody's going to have a common law name because we don't want anybody to even come with a warrant or anything on our land. Say we're looking for so and so. It's like, well, we don't recognize that name. Why don't you recognize that name? We have a warrant for so and so. We don't recognize that name because that's not their name on here. We don't have anybody established. Everybody who comes in and out of this community, we make sure that we have it on the sheet. Who's here, who's not, and we don't have anybody here by that name. Right? Okay, that's fine if you're asking a question. You know there's 243 people on right now. 246 now. I can't see every question. I'll try my best to get to them as I have time. I'm one person. I apologize for not being the most high, but I'm not. So I can't answer every single thing at the same time. I apologize. But think about that, right? Right? He used it when he was sworn in. Very good point. When he was sworn in, he had to say the full name. Why? Because he belongs. He's saying, I belong to this corporation. Right? When he used Barack Hussein Obama, he said it was specific speeches. Right? Because he was trying to tell you, I'm authorizing something. I'm authorized to give you something. A nickname can be a common law name, sure. Right? But you got to understand, like this is what we're dealing with. We're dealing with what? With name brand. And people don't comprehend. Name is authority. What are you authorizing with your name? What are you authorizing? This is why we talked about express contracts. Right? We talked about that yesterday. We mentioned it. What is an express contract? Do you even know what that means? Right? What is your name on? What is an express contract? See? What is an express contract? What are you saying or expressing to people that they say they can attach your name and your brand to and say that you're signing off on it even without your physical signature going on there? Right? What is an implied contract? What are your deeds imply? You see, when we talk about this biblical stuff, when we talk about law in the Bible, like we're not. See, if it's not practical, then it's going to remain mystical. A lot of the stuff that people be trying to teach or trying to go against is mysticism. I'm not being mystical. I'm giving you practical application, right? Like when you imply something, what does that mean? And if you imply something with another party, it's a contract that's going on. What is a contract called? We would call that. Let's call it what they would call it in the Bible, right? Because we like to be biblical, right? So let's call it what we would say in biblical teaching or biblical reading. We would call this a covenant, right? That's what we would call that. So you're in covenant and don't even know it. You're saying things, don't even know what you're saying. Implying things, don't even know what you're implying. You have covenants with all these different people, don't know it. Every time that you buy some food from somebody, you are in covenant. That's why you had a right to say this food isn't good enough. Why? Because we have a contract. If I give you the money, then the food better be what should have been implied, right? But they'll say, well, I told you what the order was, and it says it on the sign up there. So you when you came in and bought the food, you implied that you knew what was up there, right? Ignorance of the contract. It doesn't mean that you still aren't in contract. Ignorance of what the contract states does not mean that you see what I'm saying? Ignorance of what the contract says. I see the 1611 thing. I don't know if I have time to get into that, but I hear you. But ignorance of what the contract implies doesn't mean that you don't know that the contract isn't still valid. And people are living ignorant lives, ignorant of the fact that there's a U.S. and a USA, and yet they're still talking about, well, you're out there, you're talking about money's not real, blah, blah. Yeah, money's not real. There's no gold, there's no silver. If there's no gold or silver held by the government, and the law says that the only money that's real has to be backed up by gold or silver, it means that there's no money. So then, yes, of course, I would rather make sure that I discharge debt. Of course, I'm out here trying to discharge debt, because if I don't have any, if there's no money, then I'm not in debt. So why pay off something that doesn't exist? I'll just discharge it. You see what I'm saying? Glad you found this too. Have a great day. Right? Express contract, implied contracts. This is biblical. Like, we just don't talk about it that way. Let's go to this. I think it's Proverbs chapter 1 verse 3. Hopefully I'm correct about that. Matter of fact, let me just double check. I'm going to go to Proverbs chapter 1 verse 3. Matter of fact, I'm going to start at verse 1, but we're going to stop at verse 3. I'm going to read you something you never read before in your life. You never had anybody break this down for you. Nobody ever focused on this. I'm going to make sure that you get this. This is something that's going to be in your spirit. You're going to look at this and say, why did nobody ever show me this in the very Bible that I'm in? Right? Yep. It's going to be Proverbs chapter 1, verse 3. But I'm going to start all the way at verse 1. We're going to go Proverbs. And we're going to read all the way from chapter 1, verses 1 through 3. Right? And I'm going to stop at verse 3. And you're going to be like, hold up. Nobody ever told me that. Nobody ever showed me that. You ready? Proverbs chapter 1, verses 1 through 3. The Proverbs of Solomon, the son of David, king of Israel, to know what? Wisdom and instruction, to perceive the words of understanding, to make sure that I stand under something, that I'm in covenant, that I'm in contract. His father, David, taught Solomon some specific things to make sure he perceived what would put him in legal understanding and help him to be able to make sure that he was expressed and doing implied and written contracts and all those things, right? Verse 3, what does it say? To receive instruction of wisdom, justice, and judgment, right? So check this out. Like, we're gonna write these out real quick, okay? You ready? We're gonna write all these out. It says that, so this is gonna help us to receive. The book of Proverbs is gonna help. You think it's only there to help you receive wisdom. It says it's gonna help you to receive instruction, and what? It's gonna instruct you as far as number one, wisdom, right? That's not the only thing Proverbs is about. That's what all you focus on, right? But that's not all Proverbs is about. It says it's for wisdom, for justice. That means there's some legal stuff going on. There's some law going on. You need to know some law. Wait a minute. Well, we're not supposed to worry about law anymore. That's why you're getting messed up. Proverbs, you can't read Proverbs without perceiving wisdom and justice. If you're justified from something, it comes through something that has to be legal. You can't be illegal and be justified, right? But wisdom, justice, next it says, and judgment. So that means that you'll be judged by whatever, because justice requires judgment. So what are you being judged by? When everybody talks about there's going to be a judgment, what is everybody being judged by? You're only being judged because you are happy to say the name of Jesus? Is that it? Right? So you can say the name of Jesus, but you can be killing people off in the crusade? Is that it? Right? Of course not. Right? And then lastly, right, we got wisdom, justice, judgment, but here's the thing they don't even tell you about. It says, and also it's going to be instruction in what? Equity. Wait a minute. That's finance, isn't it? Isn't that to show you how you should actually spend finance? Isn't it? Wait a minute. So Proverbs is not only written for me to become wise, to dominate in a wise way. It's not only for me to become justified and get justice and receive justice and give out what's justified and give justice. It's not only to make sure that there's judgment and I don't have to go through certain judgment and I can judge things correctly, but I should also be receiving some instruction in equity. How long have people been going to church? How many people are going to go to church today? Right? It's Sunday. How many people are going to show up for church and never receive anything talking about equity other than help the church get equity? Give us 10%. Let us pay for the musician. Let us make sure that the color scheme's going to look good. Let us afford for the flowers to look good. But you got people that can't even eat. Like, that's going to happen today. What time is it, right? That's going to happen in what, 2 hours? Eastern time? Usually people go to church 11 o'clock a.m. That's usually when the service starts, right? They're going to go there and nobody going to tell them about equity. But this is what Proverbs is supposed to be. Wisdom, justice, judgment, and equity. If I'm preaching on Proverbs and I'm not giving you wisdom, justice, judgment, and equity, according to what the book's supposed to be about, I'm failing. I'm failing. Right? Like, how is it that we're telling you we're preaching out of the book? The book says teach them about equity. It says to give them instruction in equity. And yet nobody even, some of y'all don't even know what equity means. You see what I'm saying? Covenant. You're going to churches, you got an express contract that they don't have to tell you all this stuff when it's implied in the very Bible that you read that you should be receiving wisdom, justice, judgment, and equity. If you go somewhere and you're not getting wisdom, justice, judgment, and equity or being instructed in those matters, then something's not right. Exactly, Sister Tamara. We talked about that before. The Bible is basically law and case study. If you don't understand law and then understand how to do case study, you are going to miss what most of the Bible's about. You'll get some of it, but you're going to miss a lot. Amen. Thank you, Bantu. Yeah, they don't, right? But it's right there. Proverbs 1 through 3. How you going to read the rest of Proverbs and you don't understand justice and equity? Right? Another scripture we like to go to, right? Proverbs 13:22. We've mentioned this quite a few times. Right, but I'm just trying to make sure people understand this because this is what Proverbs should be, right? So we don't talk about equity, but you understand here, we talk about equity, right? So when we go to Proverbs, right, and we go to Proverbs 13:22, I'm going to go to Proverbs 13:22 now. This is a scripture that everybody hears, but nobody knows what it's talking about because you don't hear wisdom, justice, judgment, and equity, right? So now that you have the scripture, you've heard Proverbs 13:22 all the time. You've always heard the end of it. The end of it goes like this. The end of it says that, and the wealth of the sinner is laid up for the just. So you believe that the wealth of the wicked is laid up for you, right? That's what you think equity is. But there's wisdom, something that justifies you, and there's a judgment that allows you to get to equity. What does the whole verse say? Proverbs 13:22 starts off and says, and a great man leaveth an inheritance to his children's children. And that word and in Hebrew is at, it means towards. So if a great man leaves an inheritance for his grandchildren, then the wealth of the wicked, the equity, the wealth of the wicked is laid up, right? The wealth of the sinner is laid up for the just. You have to be justified to be able to get the equity. You talking about give me the wealth of the wicked. What justifies you that it can be judged that you deserve the equity because you're wise enough to be able to take care of your children's children? Right? And means towards, it can mean to continue, but at, right? At, A-T, at. Or aleph tav, excuse me, at. It means in Hebrew, it means like to basically go towards. It can mean something very specific, etc. Right? So it's say at, like barashit, bara elahim, barashit bara elahim at shemayim at aretz. When it says and the heavens and the earth, it's saying towards the heavens, towards the earth, specifically the heavens, specifically this earth that we live on. This is how things happen, right? That's what it's talking about. So same thing, right? It's saying you got to be wise, just, and judge correctly so that you can receive equity. And that's why it says the wealth of the sinner, right? Or the wealth of the wicked, some of you say. Why? Because the sinner takes care of their grandchildren. You got churches that don't take care of their people, let alone their grandchildren. So if they won't take care of their grandchildren, why should they receive equity? Why would they even think about equity? Some of us are trying to figure out how to just live from paycheck to paycheck, and we're failing in that. If we're not even thinking about past paycheck to paycheck, how are you going to get to a point of being in equity? No, I'm not a Christian. Right? I believe in the kingdom of heaven. I'm not a Christian. So equity. Right? Equity. Right? You said, how are wicked men wealthy? Did I say wicked men are wealthy? Right? I said that the wealth that they possess. So they're wealthier than many because wealth is supposed to be what? Finance, health, mental health, right? Physical health. It's supposed to be spirituality. So they some of them can be spiritually bankrupt, right? Right, but understand that. So yeah, they have more wealth because if they have look, money's not everything. The love of money is the root of all evil. But there's another scripture you can read that says what? That money answereth all things, and they wouldn't use the word money, but they would use something else. But basically, being in great finances will answer pretty much anything you're going through. And a lot of people are not in a place like where you're financially set with land, right? I don't make millions of dollars, but because my family is all right and we have property that we don't pay on, we're good. Guess what? A lot of problems that you might have are not problems we have, even if you make more money than us, because we have finance taken care of, right? That's wealth. I don't have to be Bill Gates to establish wealth in that regard, right? I have a spirituality that helps me to not jump out of windows. There's people that have more wealth than I that jumped out of windows because they went from being billionaires to hundred millionaires. Having $100 million plus of wealth, they lost stuff and they went all the way to having only 500 million, and they thought that their life was over. They jumped out of building. That's not wealthy, right? But they did. But as far as certain things that other people are like, man, I can't even take care of my children, and they take their life. They never had that problem. So I understand, right? I never said that they are wealthier than somebody or they have spirituality is one part of wealth. Remember this. See, name brand. You got to see etymology, name brand. What is something called? Because somebody tries to call you out on something, then you're missing it. You're missing what the culture, the standard is, right? Understand what I'm talking about. Right? Culturally speaking, if we're talking about being holy, right? Always remember. Well, let me write it this way. Let me use a different color scheme. Always remember that this word right here always remember that the best definition of this word right here, holy, starts with this. And I know somebody gonna hit me with that's not proper spelling. Just get what I'm saying, right? Be whole. Be whole. Right? Don't have holes. Right? We don't want you to have holes. Right? Don't talk about how holy you are, but you aren't holistic. We want you to be whole. Be whole in everything. Be whole in your approach. We want you to be whole. Okay? That's what holiness is. So if you got spirituality set, that's great, but you can't afford to eat. Well, the Bible says that the same David that Solomon's talking about in the beginning of Proverbs, his father said, I once was young, and now I'm old, and I've never seen the righteous forsaken, nor their seed, their children, doing what? Begging bread. If your children are out here and they about to start begging, if they got to beg the government, if they got to beg the government to let them go to school, they got to beg the government for their food. They have to beg the government to be able to go to church. They have to beg the government to be able to make sure that they can get a job. They have to beg the government for a return on taxes, right? If they're begging, if your seed is begging bread, then it seems like you're not in Scripture. Something's not right. You're not holy. You're not whole. The goal is to make you perfect. What is perfect? To become mature. The more mature you are, the more whole you are. The more whole you are, the more one you are. What is the most important of all commandments? Should we just go ahead and talk about this holiness real quick, right? Name brand. This is what we're supposed to be bringing. This is the name brand that we bring when we bring Yahweh Elohim. This is what we're supposed to be bringing, right? Thy kingdom come, thy will be done. His brand come, and your will, and your name and your name brand come, and your will be done. What? On earth, the same way as done in heaven. I'm supposed to bring a name brand with me. Right? So what am I supposed to behold? What is the most important commandment? Right? What is the most important commandment? According to Yahshua HaMashiach himself, the Messiah himself. What is the most important commandment? Oh, sorry. What is the most important commandment? What is the most important law? What is the most important covenant? Or contract, or a thing that brings us into contract? What is it? See what I'm saying? We're talking about wealth. You can't be wealthy if you're not whole. You cannot be wealthy if you cannot be whole. I'm trying to get you to go there. I want you to be able to copy this down and read what this is. And then I'm going to tell you what it says. And you probably you haven't had too many people break this down for you in this manner because people come out of context. They don't come within culture. So we're out here having conversations on wealth. Treat others as you treat yourself, but that's the add-on. That's him explaining, really bringing the first 10 commandments all together. Because the last 6 commandments, so commandments 5 through 10, basically say how you treat your neighbor, right? Commandments 1 through 4 is how you treat the Most High. But he quotes Deuteronomy 6:4. So this is Yahshua HaMashiach speaking, and there's a man listening to him answer all these questions and getting all the other questions correctly. This man was a Pharisee. That means that from basically as soon as he finished being on his mother's breast, he was weaned from his mother and was raised around men of Elohim. That's what he did, right? And so, right, everybody always goes to love your neighbor, right? But that's not the most important. He says, on these 2, hang all, right? Matter of fact, let's go to this. Let's make sure that you also put this with it as well. See, this is why context is important. Don't just, you see what I'm saying? We hit one scripture, and I'm not blaming anybody. I'm just telling you what you've been taught, right? We hit one scripture, and we leave it there by itself. Go to Exodus 20. That's the 10 commandments, right? What you'll discover is that Yahshua is asked by one of the people who his whole life had been nothing but studying law. Matter of fact, he was supposed to write out law. He was supposed to be a leader because we don't believe in a priest being, you can't be a priest in our culture. Matter of fact, there's only one word. That's why the word royal priesthood is only one word in both Greek and Hebrew. We don't have a separate word. You cannot be a priest without being royalty. You cannot be royalty without being a priest. It is impossible. You cannot separate the two. All right? So if this was a priest, and then therefore he was in charge, right? So what he said is the priest said, hey, here, look, I've been raised my whole life to know law. I've been raised my whole life to make sure I tell others what to do. You seem to be knocking questions out the park, things that I've never even heard anybody discuss before, right? So he says, Yashva, I need you to do something for me. He says, I need you to answer this question because my whole life hinges on this. All I know is law. That's all I do. What is the greatest commandment? What's the most important of all the laws? And Yashva quoted, when he quoted here, you keep on reading here, he went back to Deuteronomy 6:4, which people say the law doesn't matter. He went back to the law, right? Just like he said, it is written to Satan in the wilderness, Luke chapter 4, right? He went back to the law. He said, look, man, he said to the guy, look, it's written, Deuteronomy 6:4, love Elohim with all the heart and all your soul and all your mind, right? Or I think it was all your soul, your mind, and your strength. But here he says all your soul, all your heart, all your soul, all your mind, and all your strength. He says, right? Then he says the second like it is this, to love your neighbor as you love yourself. He says on those two, he didn't say that's the only law that matters, but he said on those two hang all the other commandments. Now, what was he doing there? Because the guy agrees with them. When you keep on reading in verse 34, or verse 33 and 34, one of the two, something like that, the guy agrees with them and says, you know what? You're truly right, because to love Elohim with all the heart, the soul, the mind, and the strength, and then to love your neighbor as you love yourself is greater than all other forms of sacrifice and stuff like that, and offerings. That's what he said. He was like, everything else we doing is based off of what you just said, based off of this, what Moses taught us. Because that's all Yeshua did. He quoted Moses. And he said, great. He said, now you're not far. And then the guy got a little irritated with him. If you go on, this actually continues in Luke chapter 6, verse 9, I believe, where you get the guy got a little irritated with him because he hits him with something. He says, great, now you're not far from the kingdom of heaven. So he said, just because you got that doesn't mean you're in the kingdom. He said, now you're not far. Now you're getting close. Good job, right? Now you're getting close, son, right? But here's one of the different things that's on here, right? So watch this. This goes on and on and on, and all of a sudden he quoted this. What people miss is that he took Exodus 20. He went to Exodus 20 as well. This is why, like, you got to be in the law. Like, he's giving you law and tying so much stuff in, people don't comprehend it, right? He went to Exodus 20, right? Thank you very much. Is that the official or whatever? Thank you. Oh, I think they were just saying they were happy. I don't know, but anyways, I missed it. I don't know. They might have said something before then. Thank you, moderators. Do your thing. So Exodus 20 says there, that's the 10 Commandments. What are the 10 Commandments? What are the 10 Commandments? The 10 Commandments are, the first 4 deal with who? Loving Elohim with all the heart, the soul, the mind, and the strength. That was the first 4 commandments. He took those first 4 and he said, look, man, those first 4 commandments ain't nothing but Deuteronomy 6:4. Then he said, what? The second like it is this. The next 6 commandments, commandments 5 through 10, right? Love your neighbor as you love yourself. What does it deal with dealing with your neighbor? Dealing with your neighbor means what? Dealing with your neighbor is what? Honor your father and your mother. Do not lie. Do not steal. Do not kill. Do not commit adultery. Do not covet what your neighbor has. He takes the first 4 commandments and says those can be expressed in Deuteronomy 6:4. He takes the next 6 commandments, right? He takes the next 6 commandments after that, and he says those could be expressed and says they can be expressed by just saying love your neighbor as you love yourself. And then he even goes deeper, because then somebody tried to hit him with who is my neighbor, and that's when he talked about the Good Samaritan. So we call it the Good Samaritan, right? Exactly. You're talking about 1 John 4, right? How can you say that you love somebody who you've never seen, but at the same time you want to talk about but you can't love your brother, right? And John 13, 34 and 35, by this will men know that you are my disciples, by the way that you love one another. You will love one another the way that I have loved you, right? So he's literally talking about his brand. He didn't change anything. People like to change the brand. What's up, East Texas? People are trying to change the brand. They're trying to change what we stand for. That's why I say, man, you know my standard. If you got to change something just to make you feel good about it, right, then stop talking about it. If you can't deal with what it is, that's what a lot of people can't do in life. They can't deal with reality. They have to keep changing it to make themselves feel better. You feel better now that such and such is happening. You feel better than now such and such is happening. No, like, if this is what it says, then that is what it is. I don't have to change that. It's right there, right? Now, you not seeing it or you not knowing how to do that, that's a different story. But you just straight up changing what he said to be able to make it something you want it to be, that's not accurate. Somebody saying it doesn't matter what his name is. If it doesn't, like, we talked about Yahweh already. If somebody wants to argue that and still say that they're versed in the Bible, that is what it is. We'll leave that alone, right? People want to talk about the name of Yahshua. Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you call him. Doesn't matter how you say it, this and that or whatever. You know how much it matters? Yahshua matters, right? As we talked about, hashtag Yahshua matters, right? We got to put that on the shirt. I saw some people already doing it, right? Yahshua matters, right? If Yahshua matters, it doesn't matter, right? There's two names that he was given. We don't even use the second name that much unless people go to Christmas, which is not even a biblical holy day, right? But this is, when we talk about, there was Yahshua, there was also what people know as Emmanuel, right? And these are the two terms that it says, or the two names, the two authorities that this person's supposed to get. Now, if it didn't matter, here's the question to you. If it doesn't matter, the name to use, then why is it that the angel of the Most High came and told Mary specifically, this is what you will call him? Right? None of that is relevant. See what I'm saying? So this is the same person that will go and buy something. Like the person who said it's not relevant. This is how crazy this person sounds. No offense. But if somebody says a name is not relevant, like this is the person who will buy something from, and this person wouldn't do it, but just stick with me. This person would go and buy something from Microsoft, see that it's not working, and to try to take it to the Apple store to get it fixed. And then be mad with the Apple store when they say, we don't fix Microsoft products, we only fix Apple. Well, why not? Because it's not our brand. Our name's not on it. We don't authorize it, and we're not authorized to fix it. Microsoft can, or if you want to go to somebody else who has authorization from Microsoft to fix it, then feel free to do so. But do so at your own risk. We would suggest that you take it back to Microsoft, since that's who gave it to you, right? But this type of thinking has people believing that you should take something that Microsoft gives you and take it to Apple and be mad when Apple won't fix what they didn't create. Right? You can't going back to fast food. Don't go to Burger King, buy you a little, what is it? I think they got the little 10-piece nugget or something like that, right? And whatever you call their vegetable burger, and you buy that, you don't like the way it is, and then take it to McDonald's. They say, what's up? And you say, or can we take your order? And you say, no, I don't want you to take my order. I want you to fix this. And you put a Burger King bag down in front of them. They say, this is a Burger King bag. You say, yeah, I went down to Burger King down the street. I got this. I don't like it. I want you to make it right. They're going to look at you crazy. Because the name brand, the authority, what authorizes that reputation that comes with it, it doesn't have anything to do with us. Right? Do you stand by your brand? That's a great question, right? And to meet your straw man, we already talked about the straw man, right? So we don't live by the straw man. I don't. Some people want to live by the straw man, right? So that's what we're saying, right? So that type of mentality, a name doesn't matter, any of that. That's the type of mentality they have. That's how crazy that is. That's a perverted, and I'm not talking about perverted as far as like messing with little children. The word perverted just means to be off. That's a perverted mentality, right? Somebody to literally, somebody who's literally trying to get you and I to believe that names don't matter. Culture matters. Names matter. Kingdoms matter. Who has what matters. Legally, you can't go into a court of law. And if they try to bring you on trial, you need to understand when they say, is that your name? Is such and such your name? If your name is Emmanuel Jones, and they say, Emmanuel Jones, is this you? You say, no, I'm here to represent the person, the straw man known as Emmanuel Jones. Right? Because Emmanuel Jones is not who I am. Right? Your straw man and your signature, they don't have to be the same, no. But whatever your signature authorizes, no matter who it is, your signature authorizes certain things, right? Your signature is your authorization, your name, your authority. The word name and authority, the same thing, right? So going back to this, people say it doesn't matter, but the angel came by and said, Mary, his name's Yahshua and Emmanuel. That's it. That's what it'll be known by. And if you want to know, also go deeper into the story, remember that Mary has a cousin. Right? Yahshua has a cousin who's going to be born by El Shabbat, who you guys call Elizabeth, but her actual name is El Shabbat. And it sounds like Elizabeth, right? Because that's where they got it from. El Shabbat. El Shabbat. That's her name, El Shabbat. Right? Because if my people who are called by my name, by my authority, by my standards. So her name was El Shabbat. That's what she was known as. And El Shabbat gave birth to Yohanan, who you know as the, not the Apostle John, but you know him as John the Baptist, right? Or Jean the Baptiste, or whatever, right? And so John the Baptist, his name was supposed to be Yohanan. And his name, so therefore his name was supposed to be John. And Elizabeth was supposed to be past childbearing age, right? And so when he really went past childbearing age, well, whether you trust the Bible or not, I'll tell you this much: the government is based off of the Bible, and they're using it to tear people up because they're perverting it. So you need to learn the law of it one way or the other, so you can make sure that you take care of yourself and your family. That's what I would heavily suggest, right? 2 witnesses. Where does that come from? Right? Three governing branches. Where does that come from? Right? Like, you better learn it. Even if you don't like it, you better learn it. You better learn to love it, because all this stuff that you're dealing with around the world is coming from there. They're twisting it, right? So I'm just going to say, whether you agree with the fact that Elohim is Adon over all or not, at the end of the day, they're using his word straight up, right? So his name's supposed to be John. Law, going back to law. Everything's about law. His name's supposed to be John. El Shabbat found out she was going to be pregnant from an angel, just like Mary finds out she's going to be pregnant from an angel. El Shabbat, she's past childbearing age. And so she's excited and everything or whatever. And her husband, Zechariah, Zacharias? I think Zechariah. Yeah, Zechariah, he doubts whether or not she's going to be pregnant, right? And so when he doubts it, he gets his mouth shut. He can't talk. So he's not authorized to talk because he wasn't in agreement with the name brand. So he's out of order. He's being blessed with something from this name brand, but if you're not with the name brand, right? Like we just talked about the Microsoft and Apple comparison, then don't worry about the fruit. So he's getting blessed with a child that's his child, but still can't talk. Then finally, so El Shabbat is talking to some people later on, and they're asking her, months down the road, what are you going to name the baby? And she says his name is John. And some people are like, man, John, this, that, whatever. And then guess what? He finally can open his mouth when he agrees. He opens his mouth for the first time, is able to speak when he says his name will be John. For the first time. Right? For the first time, when he agreed with the name brand, he was able to receive what the name brand had for him. Right? And Zacharias was a priest. Right? So don't get it twisted. Like, just because you a pastor or a bishop or elder, or you make more money, or you got a higher status symbol, or you drive a better car, like, it don't matter where you are. Like, you got to agree with that's legal. Right? This is the patented name, and everybody trying to change it to something else. Oh yeah, let's call it Jesus. Let's say it's Yesus. Let's say it's Yesu. Let's say it's Jesus. Let's say it doesn't matter what you call him. Let's say that there's Christ consciousness and there's really no Christ, or if Christ was around, he didn't want you to actually follow the kingdom law. He just wanted you to have consciousness of you could become a Christ yourself, because those are people that are deists. They think they can become gods themselves. Right? Didn't I just say that his name wasn't John? You hear what I'm saying? You see what I'm saying? Somebody's out there picking apart the stuff, missing the whole thing about the name brand. So yes, if you want to say Yohanan, or if you want to even go deeper, I know there's other people that would argue that. I'm not here to do that, right? So feel free to make that. But what I'm trying to give you is the point. Hopefully you guys are receiving the point, right? The point that he had a name that he's supposed to be given. And I just literally told you about El Shabbat instead of Elizabeth, and told you about Zechariah instead of Zechariah, and you can say Yohanan or whatever the other, some people would go against it. At the end of the day, I'm trying to get you to understand the name brand is important. So if it was so important that angels were sent, and if somebody went against what the angels said, mouths were shut, and people still don't get it. Things are being shut to us because we're not about the name brand. Doors that should never be shut and should always be open are being closed every day because we don't have the name brand right. You said the name on the paper doesn't tell you it's you? I mean, I guess, right? But if somebody's looking for that name on your ID and you signed off on it and you definitely didn't put that UCC 1-308 with it, you could be in some trouble. I guess it doesn't mean anything, but if it's on your birth certificate and you want to keep on using that straw man, you could be in some trouble. I guess it doesn't mean anything, but that social security number, it has a that little paper. Remember on the back of that paper, you got that receipt paper that comes with it and stuff. You got a name, you got a number that goes with that. It's a receipt, and they're able to get a whole bunch of stuff off of you because of that name. And every time you sign a document, even if you're gonna say it's not the same, you see what I'm saying? People are trying their best to get out of name branding. I'm not here to art. Like, if you want to talk about the stuff and you think that you know more about that stuff, that's fine. You can know more about the law than I do if that's what you need. I'm not here to win. I'm not here to be right. I'm telling you what righteousness is. Righteousness just means to be in legal right standing. What does your name say? What does your brand say at the end of the day? Right? What does your name say? What does your name say? See, somebody once again came, God Jehovah, right? Not understanding that God is a deity. God is not the same as Elohim. So God cannot be Jehovah or Yahweh or Yahweh or you know, all the other versions that people want to come up with. God cannot be Yahweh because God is a different deity than Elohim. God is a different title than Elohim. Now, if there's somebody who wants to say in their language that God, Germanic language, that you're trying to say that God is Elohim, I mean, I guess, but why not, if you know that he's really Elohim, why not just call him what he is and get the brand right? Is religion made up? What does the word religion mean? See what I'm saying? People have branded something. What does the word religion mean? Not what you think it means. What does it actually mean? Where did it come from? See what I'm saying? God is one of the offices? No. God is a Germanic deity. God is not the same as Elohim, or what we would say Elohim. Two different people, two different deities, two different titles, two different cultures. Not the same. They do not equal one another. They are not the same. Elohim is the proper title of the Most High. Yahweh Elohim, God, is something dealing with Ashkenazi or Germanic principles, which is not ours, right? That's just, you know, people do that all the time, right? My culture says this. Okay, so in your culture, this is what you believe. So we'll just say that what we do is what you are, right? It's like when somebody tries to tell me, like, for example, I'm sorry, I'm trying to remember my days in Spanish. I'm not that great with, what is it, lunes, Titus, miércoles. What is Friday? I don't remember what Friday is, but somebody might try to say, like, so I'm Kofi, right? Kofi, right? My name is Kofi. Now, in English, somebody could say that my name is Friday born. So what a lot of people would do is this, right? And that's a kind of loose translation of what it means, right? But Friday born on a Friday, something along those lines, right? So a lot of people try to say Friday born, really Friday birthed, but that's a whole other conversation. So if I were, so is God, as you refer to it, I don't refer to God as part of the Trinity. I refer to Elohim as part of the Trinity. That's not my standard, right? So, but anyways, Friday born, right? So somebody might say, no, oh no, your name is so your name is Friday, or your name is Friday born. No. My name is Kofi. But it means Friday born over here. So when you come over here, we'll just call you Friday. No. Don't call me Friday. That's not my authority. My authority is what? It's no, well, yeah, we know what it means, but over here, understand, like, Friday means, no. My name is Kofi. It'll be Kofi in Spanish. It'll be Kofi en français, right? It'll be Kofi in Portuguese. It'll be Kofi in Kiswahili. It'll be Kofi in Shwi and Ashanti Shwi and Lingala, right? In Kemetic language, whatever language you're speaking, my name, my authority is still the same. It is Kofi. My brand is still the same. It is kingdom, because I belong and am a part of, and I'm partaker in, am sovereign in, and a fellow heir in the kingdom. Now, people are trying to talk about transliteration. See, but transliteration means what? It means that I'm what? I'm trying to change the authority. Look, I understand if you're saying, and for me to comprehend what it means, I need to say that it's Friday. Okay, cool. say it's Friday. But if you're talking about what is the interpretation, there's only one interpretation. There are many applications. There can be many transliterations, but there's one interpretation. The interpretation of my name, right, is one. My name is Kofi, Friday born, all across the board. But guess what? So the interpretation, if you're trying to say to interpret it in my language, then fine, you have to reinterpret it. You have to change it a little bit, because Friday doesn't mean exactly the same as what Kofi means, by the way. Friday born on a Friday doesn't really quite tell you what this name actually means, what it means to my culture, right? It's close, right? But it's not quite going to give you what it means. That's why the Russian poet, black poet, grandson of Ganabal, Alexander, not Hamilton, not Dumas. Alexander, no, not even Alexander. I'm putting some names together. Anyways, great Russian poet. Was a black man. The greatest Russian poet, some consider him to be the greatest writer ever. They don't allow some of his books to be written outside of Russian language. You know why? Because not only did he help create the Russian language, right, as it's spoken today, but also he is somebody who, Alexander Pushkin, thank you. Alexander Pushkin is somebody who literally, his writings are so great, they don't translate well either. So if they don't translate well to other things, they're like, you're going to lose everything. So if you don't learn Russian, you probably never really learn what he was actually saying. Right? If you don't learn Russian, you'll probably never learn what he was actually saying. So just because you can read a book by somebody written in another language doesn't mean you're going to quite get it. Just like, for example, it's not great English to use the word and. We've talked about that before. Now, when we speak all the time, we say stuff like, man, can you understand? I was out there the other day, and this dude gonna walk up to me like this. And this dude was tripping, man. Like, he was gonna do this and that or whatever. And I straight up was ready, because it looked like he was trying to swing. And I saw he looked like he was ready to swing, so I stole on him. Right? Like, you had a conversation, right? And you say, and. Now, people will say that is not proper English. We do not speak like that. But in our culture, we speak like that. In the Bible, you will see and da 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 and da da da, because it's the start of a sentence. It's speaking to something specific, or it's pointing you in a certain direction. So and is all over the place in the Bible, because in our culture, and is how we start sentences, right? So somebody will come to you and say they branded that as something that is not right. But the reality is, in our culture, and is righteous. You see what I'm saying? So just because somebody's telling you in school, so you got to pass to something to get your degree, so you have to change your culture up and become somebody different so that you can get a degree, so somebody else authorizes you to be who they tell you are, but your name brand says that you're more powerful than that anyways. Why are you doing that? Elohim means more than one. And Elohim is infinite, so infinity goes with his title, that title, but Elohim means more than one. Royalty that's more than one. Right, in British, more means uncultivated. Why? Because a Moor is somebody that they're against, because the evidence that the Moors caused them to become what they are is something that they don't want to deal with. Right? Just like people will say, don't ever call yourself black. You know what black means in the dictionary, or Black's Law Dictionary? That's what their dictionary says. If I go to court, I got to make sure that when I'm in that system, I recognize that black is not great. But black, where I come from and where my people come from, is amazing. So I love being black. Legally, though, if I go into a courtroom, I understand I can't be black. I need to be a natural person, not an artificial person. And people don't want to talk about it. See? So when I'm in certain circles, see, now we talk about name brands, right? Because certain name brands don't mean anything in certain places, right? Like, so for example, if you go into the grocery store, we were talking about Apple earlier, right? We've been talking about Apple a lot. I just use them because a lot of people look up to Apple brand, right? So Apple at the mall is different to me, right? Apple at the mall, right? The brand of Apple is different than the brand of Apple at the store, right? At the grocery store. Let's just say grocery store, right? So at the mall and at the grocery store, the brand is different. You see that? Right? Like, how you apply the brand is different. How you apply the name is different. Right? Your name is everything, right? Or if I'm in the grocery store, right? If I'm in the grocery store, Kellogg's really doesn't mean anything to me, right? If I'm looking for bread, right? Kellogg's means something to me if I'm looking for cereal or whatever. Yeah, I know they make other things, right? But basically, Kellogg's is something different, right? I'm not worried about Kellogg's when it comes to bread. The bread I don't have nothing to do with Kellogg's, right? And because a lot of people, but a lot of people in life do that, right? A lot of you guys are looking for brands to tell you who you are, right? So you look for somebody else's clothes, right? You're looking for, Calvin Klein to tell you what clothes you should wear, what you should smell like, right? Right? And trying to do that. You're looking for Calvin Klein to be able to tell you who you are in society. But you're not looking for something in society, something that might be more along the lines of, let's say, instead of Calvin Klein, maybe in society, I should be, instead of looking for Calvin Klein to tell me who I am as far as the clothes, we were talking about Calvin Klein earlier, maybe I should look for something like humility. Right? Right? Humility. Because whether I'm wearing Calvin Klein or not, humility will get me further. It'll help my community out more. It'll help my children to have a better example. It'll help me to reach others in other platforms around the world. Right? That's humility will help me to do those things. Right? What brand do you carry? What is your brand? Some people don't even know what their brand is. Right? What is your brand? I think somebody asked that question earlier. What is your brand? Can you answer that? In life coaching and stuff, I was talking to somebody this morning. We're going to start our sessions, and I do a lot of life coaching sessions. And one of the things I had to ask people, I was talking to somebody yesterday, last night, and we kind of made a restart to our sessions. And I had to ask both of them, like, what is your brand? What is your vision? What is it? What's your reputation? What is the reputation that you're supposed to have that nobody else on the planet's supposed to have? When they come to you, what is your brand? What is your reputation? What do you sell that nobody else could even sell? See, people are like, oh, well, people sell, there's a whole bunch of companies that sell cereal. Yeah, but not all the companies' cereal tastes the same. Right? What do you have? What is your brand? What is it that people are going to pay money for? And yes, I said that. What is something that somebody would support you with? See, people used to make me feel guilty about it, right? But people, when they know your brand, they support it. Like when they like your brand, what they do is they support your brand, right? If somebody like going back to fast food, there's a difference for a lot of people between Chick-fil-A chicken and McDonald's chicken. You might go to McDonald's chicken because, hey, the brand is cheap. I ain't trying to pay with so much, so be it. But some people are like, yo, that chicken at Chick-fil-A is fire. And even if they don't like my people or they don't like us because we are homosexual or whatever, right? Because the Chick-fil-A came out and said we against that, right? But even people who are homosexual, they're going to show up at Chick-fil-A. Why? Because the brand is so good, right? The chicken is so good that they will be like, man, they don't like me, but that chicken on point, though. I'll support it anyways. Right? And I'm sorry to say it like that, but that's real, right? Like that's something that happened not too long ago, right? What was it, 3, 4, 5 years ago, whatever, right? I'm not saying you have to like Chick-fil-A. Maybe you like McDonald's chicken better. I don't know. McDonald's be putting that whatever. Chick-fil-A actually goes and gets chicken from the actual like grocery store and then like makes it in the back. So I'd rather get something that's closer to real, because that's not always real either, but that's closer to real than what McDonald's be selling y'all. But at the end of the day, what's your brand, right? Whatever your brand is, people will support the brand. Right? And when they're supporting the brand, they're really looking to support. Sorry. When they go to support your brand, who do you think they're supporting? They're supporting you. Did you catch that? They're supporting you. Authorize the brand. You authorize the reputation. So here's the thing. Now we got to ask this question. Right? Since you authorize this, now the other question has to be, what do you authorize? What does your life imply? Implied contracts. What does your life express? Express contracts. What are you signing off on that authorizes people to think about you the way that they think about you? Right? What are you authorizing people to think about you? You hear what I'm saying? What are you authorizing? Talking all this trash about everybody else. What do you authorize people to think and say about you? Right? What are you authorizing? Man, I can't tell you. I got with that man, and that man was terrible. He was a devil. He was this or that. Why'd you get with that man? Why did you authorize him to be in your life? Did you check him out? Did you check his parents out? Did you study him? Did you know what a husband or wife was before you got married? Why did you authorize that? What caused you to authorize it? It's a lie, right? That woman, I swear, man, she's off. She's just, oh man, I don't like to call women the B word, but I would call her one. And she did all these things to men. Okay, fine, bro. What was okay about it? All you were thinking about was them hips, and then you allowed them hips to be in your bed, and you allowed her to stay not only in your bed but in your bedroom, and it went from the bedroom to your house, and then all of a sudden y'all had children together, but you never thought about what she was. All you cared about was them hips. Because you authorized that, bro. I didn't authorize that. Don't bring that to me talking about how evil she was. You authorized that. It's always interesting. People will come to me after the marriage getting ready to break up or it's broken up. Then they want to talk about, man, I want some counseling on our way out. Right? We in trouble. Let's get some counsel. Why didn't you come and get some counsel why didn't you get some coaching before you got together? Right? We could have seen if y'all were authorized to be what y'all said y'all was going to be. What is your brand? If you discover what a brand is, right? Says when it comes to branding and stuff, right? When it comes to algorithm and all those things, guess what? These are things, statistics and things that you're supposed to study. And I know I'm getting ready to be over the time that I had set aside for this rising, so I'm gonna get ready to step out and do some traveling in a little bit, But study, like, have you studied what it is that takes people to come into contact with your brand? What do you advertise? Right? What do you advertise? What about you is going to cause somebody to drop what they're doing and say, I need some of that? Right? What about you is going to cause somebody to say, I need what you got? What do you advertise? Right? What's your website say? Look, we don't even do a great job of advertising. However, when we advertise, when people see what we're about, they say, "Man, we need to get in touch with y'all about that." Oh, that's the classes y'all give? Okay, we need to. Matter of fact, something that I've learned from working for other people, right? Jobbing out to other people, being in my work, working for other people. This is stuff that I've learned too. Is that you have to be a student, right? To study. So really, we're saying you gotta be a disciple. A disciple is one who's disciplined in something, right? I have to be able, and therefore, really, I have to be a master as well. What does that mean? That means that I have to be able to teach what I want my company to be disciplined in. So somebody in my family, my wife, when she speaks, you should hear some of me in how she speaks because I'm a teacher. And if I can't teach at home first, and they don't get disciplined in the things that we believe, then how can I ask somebody else like you to support what I can't even get to be authorized in my own family? My family's an advertisement of who I am. The fact that my children don't cuss and fuss at people, whether they be the 19-year-old all the way down to the 6-year-old, right? They don't cuss and fuss out people. The fact that they don't do that, that's great advertisement for the brand. If somebody says, man, this dude talks about this and all this other stuff or whatever, and somebody says, well, what does he do? Well, first things first, look at my family. After that, look at what we do in Africa. After that, look at what we do in the Caribbean. After that, look at what we do in the States. After that, look at what we do, with people online every day. Look at the time that's given. After that, look at the fact that I could be somebody who charges for all this. Like this stuff that you guys are getting for free, and we do have classes and stuff that we ask for a certain amount of donation for, but this stuff that you guys are getting for free, there are people that wouldn't give this to you unless you made sure that first that y'all gave them a certain amount of likes and a certain amount of gifts every time, right? You better make sure if you're going to be on this and you're going to be, I'm not going to do this unless I do it on Zoom. I'll just give you guys a piece of it. We'll give some of this information out, and then you got to pay for the rest of it on Zoom, right? That's what they do. Or, hey, come to this conference. This conference is free. Now the next one you got to pay, $500 for that. And then after that, you can pay $1,500 to be somebody that's underneath somebody that can talk to you about the same stuff that you can get for free. We giving this out every day, right? Every day, all day, right? That's the brand. So if somebody wants to know what I'm about, all you got to do is show up. And I'm telling you, right, you got to find out what your brand is. What is your vision? What are you supposed to do that nobody else will do? What is your reputation? What do you authorize, right? So that people can support what you do and they can support what you do. Now, when I said you, understand they'll support you, but they're not coming for you. We talked about that before as well. People aren't coming for you. Not everybody's coming because they love you. They're coming for what you have, right? They're not showing up. And forgive me, y'all know I can't draw that well, but they're not showing up, right, for the tree. They're showing up for the fruit, right? What is the fruit, right? Whatever your fruit is on the tree, this is what people are showing up for. They're not showing up for the tree. Nobody's coming to the tree and being like, man, I love the bark on that tree. They're coming because you got something they can eat. So don't be mad when people are showing up and you're like, man, where are all the people? You're only gonna have a few confidants, right? You'll have a lot more constituents and you'll have a lot more comrades and constituents, right? Don't confuse those comrades and constituents for confidants. There are going to be very few people that are going to be living for you. They're going to make sure you get the nutrients. There's going to be very few, the tree is because you got to stay planted in who you are. So the tree's not going to keep walking around and going to different places. It's going to stay with who and who it is. When you discover who you are, your brand, your name, you're going to have to stay in position. Stay in position, and you're going to find very few people that are soil. You're going to find very few people that are sunlight. You're going to find very few people who are going to be water. You're going to find very few people who are going to make sure that they help you to heal. You're going to find very few people who will make sure that they go out of their way just to make sure that you're taken care of, right? However, understand that all of that, a lot of people are coming for your fruit. And the second that they don't like your fruit or they think that your fruit was going to taste different or something, let those people leave. Let those people go. That's okay. Your brand is not supposed to reach everybody. I wish I could really teach on that, because that right there, right? Apple is not for everybody. That's why there's Apple and Android, right? If you don't like Apple, there's a whole bunch, and they don't even say Apple and this version of Android and that version. No, they just say Apple or Android. Why? Because there's a whole bunch of, you can go to anybody else, but Apple says, look, if you're going to be with us, we don't care what you think about it. We don't care if you think it's expensive. We don't care if you like our design, don't like, if you're going to be with us, this is what we do, period. Period. This is what Apple brand is. This is how much we cost. This is what we're going to do. This is what we expect. Period. Whether you like it or not. Now, there's great things that come with us. There might be some things you don't like, but that's our brand. If you don't like it, buy somebody else. And if you want to complain that basically you aren't with us because we're too expensive, so be it. We don't care. We're not going to cheapen who we are to make sure that you can go ahead. This is our fruit. This is what we give. Period. Exactly. Your brand not supposed to reach out to everybody. Understand, you're not going to be everybody's cup of tea. Right? Not everybody who's black is going to agree with me. Not everybody who's white is going to agree with me. Not everybody who is a male is going to agree with me. Not everybody who's a female. Not everybody who agrees with me on a whole bunch of things is going to agree with me on everything. That's okay. My brand is not for everybody. A lot of people in my family don't like what I stand for. That's okay. My brand is not for everybody. Not everybody's going to love what I stand for or what I give out. You hear what I'm saying? That's right. You're not everybody's minister. Minister Nice, that's right. What you speak is not going to reach everybody. And that's why everybody has to be in their calling anyways, because I can reach some people that Minister Nice can't reach, and she can reach some people that I can't reach. She got about the same, if not more, people that are on her page. You know what I'm saying? So she doesn't necessarily need me to make her anything, right? But we work together in this thing so that we can cause a shift and a growth in the community, right? So not everybody who supports me will support you, and not everybody who supports you will support me. That's fine. You see what you have to get to that level, right? People say, how is it that you can be on here and deal with all these naysayers and all this negativity and blah, blah? Because I understand that my brand ain't for everybody. That's why I say, you're not my standard. What I'm saying that is, you're not my brand. My brand does not suit you. My brand is what it is. My brand is what it is. It's been what it was. It was what it was. If I had one person coming on live, I was excited about it. If I've got, that's why if we have like the lives that we do in the evenings, Mondays, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays at 8:00 p.m. Eastern New York time. Y'all know sometimes we might only have 20 people on there or whatever. So what? Like, my brand is not, I don't care about how many people show up. That used to be part of my brand. When I got out of that, I recognized that, hey, whether or not people are with me, whether people agree with me, whether it's 300 people at a time, whether we have 1,000 and something viewers, whether we have 7,000 total viewers, whether we have a video that reaches millions of people, it doesn't matter, because I'm not doing it for you. I'm doing it for the brand. Now, if the brand is something that's great, the environment is something that's great, you'll support it anyways, right? And if you support it, you'll support what I authorized anyways. Right? And if I authorize it, it's because I studied it. If I studied it, I'm going to advertise what I studied. I'm going to be disciplined in what I study even further so that I can make sure that I master it, that I can teach it. You see what I'm saying? So don't let anybody get you off brand. Even the people when I talk to back and forth with them, if you notice, I had these conversations. People be like, "Please don't let them take you off. Please don't let them take you off track. They just want to take you off track." And I'll say, and all that stuff, I'm gonna use it, and just give me a little bit of time. You'll always see I'm gonna flip it back to the brand, no matter what we're talking about. I'll roll down that aisle with you, that dark alley with you. We can have a conversation and go through all these twists and turns. But then after about a couple minutes at the most, you'll see, okay, let's bring it back to brand. This is what you're doing. You're proving my point. Or if I'm wrong, hey, you disprove my point, right? But it's always back to brand. Right? Doesn't matter if you get bigger, you reach whom y'all wants you to reach. Amen. Like that's what it is. And really, don't despise the small beginning. Right? This is scripture. Don't despise the small beginning. And also understand that you have to be faithful over a few things to become a ruler over many. Right? Understand, like in our culture, remember, why did Yashua not start preaching and teaching and doing the things he was doing until he was 30 years old? Because in our culture, you have to be 30 years old to be a rabbi. You can't be a rabbi before you're 30. So a lot of people, you're even out there, something for our young people who are listening, or if there's a young person listening with somebody else today, or if you're going to share this with somebody on YouTube or whatever the case might be, if you're listening to this, I need you to comprehend that just because, right, hear what I'm about to say, just because you are, how can I say? Yeah, just because you're not doing the stuff you want to do, some of this stuff you might have to wait until you're older. Keep developing yourself. Keep strengthening yourself. Keep loving yourself. Keep loving others. Keep the faith, right? Some of you who are older than 30, hey, El Shabbat, she wasn't supposed to be able to have children. Sarah, Abraham, they weren't supposed to be able to have children. Keep staying focused. Hey, Abraham and Sarah made a mistake, right? And had a child outside of what was for them. Had to deal with that situation. Keep on pressing. Keep on moving. Keep on growing. What is your brand? Your brand is important. People are going to keep telling you the name brand doesn't matter. That is false. That is foolishness. Everybody around the earth is trying to figure out purpose, vision, value, right? Or vision, purpose, value. That's how we say it, VPV. Vision, purpose, value. If you're trying to figure out name brand, vision, purpose, value, you got to comprehend who you be. Right? Somebody says that's bad English, but no, because you have to become. How you going to become if you don't know who you be? If you don't know who you be, how you going to come to be? Become, right? So, anyways, I thank you guys for being on. I appreciate the king and queen in each and every one of you. Even if you're not living inside that kingdom or queendom yet, I appreciate the potential king and queen in each and every one of you. Those who are on YouTube, you'll be able to see this later on when we put this stuff in the description for the video. If you want to kind of see what we talked about again or go through it and listen to a recording of all this stuff, you can look up on the YouTube channel. We have a new YouTube channel now, hashtag Find Kofi, FINDKOFI. And we got tons of ways that you can be able to support, as well as be able to learn more about us, as well as be able to sign up for classes and all these things. I'm going to give a few announcements real quick as we get ready to get off. Thank you for joining us on this Rising. So real quick, you can text us at the number that's above my head. Those who are listening on YouTube, it's 202-599-7312. You can also go to the website, kofi-ofori.com. That's KOFI-OFORI.com. You can also go to the YouTube channel, hashtag Find Kofi, hashtag FINDKOFI. The Cash App is up there as well, $ Find Kofi 1. There's other ways you can donate to what we're doing. Of course, go to the website or text us to see what the donations actually go towards, or if you want to take the classes coming up, etc. My wife and I, this evening, will be on together to discuss more about who is the real you, how much of the real you have you actually met. I believe that's what the title is. How much of the real you have you actually met? So we'll talk about that. We'll also, and that'll be live here on TikTok. We'll also have it on the podcast. You have to have the Podbean app, PODBEAN, the Podbean app, to be able to listen live. And if you like to, maybe you want to look live on TikTok, have the Podbean app up as well, so you can call in. You know, if you have a question or something you'd like to call in and not just go through the comment section, you can do that with us. But that'll be 8:00 p.m. Eastern or New York time this evening, and she'll be on with us. So we thank you. She was just on yesterday, gave a mighty word. Yesterday for Shabbat Shalom, part of the Kofi Ofori podcast. We do the Shabbat Shalom episode. That's a returning episode that we do weekly. So if you want to join us every Shabbat, once again, you have to have the Podbean app, PODBEAN, to join us live. You can just look up the Kofi Ofori podcast. My name, the Kofi Ofori, no dash, just the Kofi Now my fingers disappearing. There we go. The Kofi Afforti podcast. You can look it up and join us. But if you want to join us live, you got to be on the Podbean app. We'll be on both podcasts and on the and on TikTok this evening together. And finally back together for the first time in a little while. We praise God. Thank you for all those who were praying for her and our family as they were traveling together. And she's taking some much deserved rest. So I'm still kind of be the conduit for those of you trying to get in touch with her about certain things for a little bit. However, we're thankful and grateful for you guys. Supportive of us. Thank you for all the likes again. Thank you for all those who shared, who were on with us, who gave great comments. I'm so sorry. I'm not Elohim. I try my best to hit as many comments as possible, but it's just so many comments coming. But that's why we say try to text us, try to DM us, try to hit us up, and I will do. It might take me a little while because there's so many coming in and so many things that we do. However, I promise you I'll do my best to get to you ASAP. But we'll be on this evening, 8:00 p.m. Eastern in New York time, October 1st, which is this upcoming Friday, so right around the corner. Every first Friday we go out into the community. We make sure we're a blessing to somebody in our community. So if you'd like to join us for that, please feel free to do so, and we're thankful and grateful for you doing so in advance. Also too, if you're somebody who has the opportunity to, this first Friday coming up, October 1st, we're looking at starting Yah's Land Project 83. So if you'd like to join us for that, we're looking for 30 families minimum, as many as possible. But we're looking. Our goal, our prayer is that we'll have 30 families that come together, give $83 and some change a month, and that will take us to a place to where we can next year be able to go out in October. So starting October 1st for 12 months, we're asking everybody to give $83 and some change a month per family. If you want to do it per person in your family, you can do that too. But I'm just talking about per family. That'll get us to a place where we know we can get at least about 50 acres of land. We can make sure that it's something that's acceptable to grow food on. We can make sure that there's some water and things like that running on there. We can start looking at solar energy. We're looking into different spots. So I have some people that have been saying stuff in different places as far as where we can look at. I don't mind going into those things. Just, and we have some people. We have some names written down on the list and everything. We're probably going to ask you guys to confirm very soon, but we're going to start that very soon. So if you'd like to be able to join us in that, please feel free. We're not going to touch the money at all until October 1st. So those of you who are saying, when are we should, what if something comes up beforehand? Our prayer is that what Yah has for us will be in October 2022. And that's what we'll be looking forward towards. We won't start any conversations with anybody, or at least we won't start any legal conversation as far as paperwork with anybody up until October 1st, 2022. If you'd like to join us in that endeavor, feel free to. And we're looking at having our own place where we can make sure we live with people that are like-minded, and even if we don't live there all year round, can still be around and have a place where we can live, have less financial requirements. It can be private land, and we can make sure that we start building homes and things like that in a place of protection, putting gates of security, all those different things we're talking about. So if you'd like to join us for that, that'll be October 1st. That's this Friday, as well as going out in your community and blessing somebody, homeless person on the street, your family member, somebody at school. Sometimes you go to school and you see children that are kind of having a rough existence. You'd be surprised. There's a lot of children that are out here homeless going to schools. If you take your child to school, you notice something about somebody, maybe you want to help somebody at school, whatever the Most High says. Starting October 11th, that's when our classes are going to start. All right, we're asking for a $90 minimum donation for 2-month classes. The classes will all be at 9:00 p.m. Eastern New York time, once a week for 2 months straight. We're not going to stop for any holy days, so we don't do Christmas and any of that stuff. So if any of those things conflict, shouldn't, right? If we go from October to December, that shouldn't be a problem anyways, but we want to make sure you guys are aware. So our class schedule will be starting October 11th. Every Monday is going to be on marriage. Every Tuesday is going to be on monarchy. Every Wednesday is going to be on sovereignty. Every Thursday is going to be on Natural Medicine 1. Every Friday will be on CIS. Now, we ask that you have taken either with us or someone else Natural Medicine 1 or Natural Medicine 2, or maybe have a conversation with us to make sure that you actually comprehend what's necessary to have the class on CIS, because the CIS is going to be more advanced, and my wife's going to be teaching it, and my wife as you guys will learn more about her, she's kind of no nonsense on certain things, and she's more behind the scenes, so people don't get to certain things. So when it comes to class, she's kind of like, hey, this is what class is, this is what to be expected, and she's probably not going to do too much, even though she did it last time. It's not really her teaching style. She's doing it out of love for me, but she's likes to be direct and hit certain points, and doesn't like to always have to review everything. So if you were just asking, because it might be kind of hard for you to keep up on a class about cyst if you don't know certain things about even just you are what you eat, and how to develop things as far as what to be able to comprehend things that she was talking about with natural medicine too, as far as why you crave certain things, different things like that. Cysts are on a different level. So that'll be every Friday, and then Saturday will be Hebrew characters. So Monday marriage, Tuesday monarchy, Wednesdays sovereignty, Thursdays natural medicine 1, Fridays cyst, Saturdays Hebrew characters. All right. And then starting October 18th, which will be the Monday following October 11th, October 18th, we will start every morning. Now, I'll be on at 6:30 a.m., but this official class won't start until 6:45 a.m. through 7:45 a.m., 1 hour, preceding what we'll be doing for our 1 hour sessions that we do live every morning, or every rising, excuse me. And that will be specifically just Bible study, going from Genesis to Revelation. And I'm not even sure that it'll be in order all the time, but we'll be starting in Genesis for sure, and we'll be doing basically just Bible study. And our goal is to be able to get through all the Bible at some point. So that might be a 2-year journey, 3-year, 4-year, 5-year journey. We don't know, but we want to take our time with it and go through it. So if any of you are interested, let us know. Lastly, October 30th, which is the last Saturday of this upcoming month of October, we will have our Brothers in Black meeting. Well, ladies are invited. Brothers, of course, we want you to be there. Brothers, we want you to wear black in solidarity. Ladies, if you want to come and hear brothers speak to brothers and hear some actual conversation and hear what we need specifically, so you can know, maybe you're somebody raising a man by yourself, unfortunately, and you want to glean some things. We're going to have 3 dynamic speakers. That'll be 8:00 p.m. Eastern, New York time, on October 30th. Sometime in November, we had mentioned this, those of you who are married who want to do the marriage contract thing with us, where we're literally just going to have some meetings with you all, write out some different things, and say we agree to this, we disagree to this, etc., and then have something that you can have printed out on your wall, signed by all 3 of us, saying that we all agree this is what we'll do, etc., etc., etc. And if you haven't, therefore it helps you. You'll have something posted in there you both agree to. It'll help you with your love languages, all those things. We're going to do that starting in November sometime. Not sure when, but just be ready for that. And then ladies, in December, don't forget, we're going to have our Women in Red. And that'll be led by Minister Maya, by First Lady Maya, by the Honorable Maya. And she's working on that. All those things are on the website, kofi-ofori.com, KOFI-OFRI.com. All those things are on the website. So you can go on there on our website and look it up, and look up the calendar dates. Click on calendar, look at the dates. We have all those things up there for you, and we appreciate you in advance. So that is all that I have. Remember, this is our year of pursuit, where we're pursuing the promises of the Most High. And remember that we're going to hashtag Finish Strong. If you want to put some post out and stuff, and just put hashtag Finish Strong. Every once in a while, I'll look up hashtag Finish Strong on TikTok, or maybe I'll look it up on YouTube. We'll see what pops up. But I'm thankful and grateful for you all being on and finishing strong in this year. We're going to finish strong together as a community. We've grown so much just from the first of this year to the end of this year. The growth has been astounding, and we thank you. We appreciate you. You're part of that. You're part of this brand. And the brand is bigger than Kofi. The brand is really the kingdom of heaven. So I'm thankful. I'm grateful for you all. We're going to hashtag Finish Strong. Our prayer for you is that we're not just hearers of this word, but you will become doers of it as well. And I'm thankful and grateful. As always, this has been Pastor Kofi, aka the Shadow Band One, Pastor Servant to Christ, where we are always changing lives one mind at a time by being a voice of the voiceless and speaking the unspoken, until I have the great pleasure, privilege, opportunity, and responsibility of being in front of you all again, which will be this evening at 8:00 p.m. Eastern, New York time. I want you to remember, as always, that you are loved, you are necessary, you are majestic, you are fearfully and wonderfully made, and you, which is all of us working together, we shall be the reason this world changes for the better, bare minimum, will be the reason why people who are in this system no longer have to be of it. Shalom, family. See you guys later. Peace.